Hello, everyone. It's the Huddle Postgame show. Big win for Ohio State tonight over Toledo, 77-21. I don't know what the final yardage totals are. We'll probably have those here shortly. I can look those up, but it was a big night. I think they clear 800 yards. It was close to it. Unbelievable offensive performance, joined by Devin Radcliffe here. Like I said, I know you're going to want to talk about the defense a little bit at some point, but we can't bury the lead here. The offense was amazing tonight. Where does that, on a 1 to 10 efficiency ranking, what was that offensive performance for you? I mean, that was just that was something.
Well, they almost batted 1,000, and what I see when they went 10 of 11, their touchdowns or in possessions, maybe 10 of 12, or 11 of 12, 12 of 13, something like that. So obviously, the offense stole the show. C.J. Stroud only had 5 incompletions, threw for at least 300. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. Five touchdowns, I believe. Wide receivers were incredible. So obviously they stole the show. Run game was hitting. Mayan Williams had a good game. I'm not sure if he hit 100 yards or not, but it seems like he was really starting to hit it hard. Down the true freshman running back came in. Hayden, I believe his last name is. He came in. He went over 100. He looked good. Outside zone, the stretch play. He was making some nice cuts in the zone run game. So again, just about Xbox on easy mode is about the way to explain the offense tonight.
Yeah, 763 total yards. And it felt like it could have been 1,000 if they had really went for it. I agree. On Hayden, I thought Hayden looked really good. I got my 10 post-game observations up on BuckeyeHuddle.com if anyone wants to do a little light reading while you're watching or listening to this. But one of them was Dallin Hayden. I said the offensive line was opening up holes for him. Yes, I'm sure his legs are fresh. Yes, I'm sure he was amped up, getting real meaningful carries in the shoe. Yes, I'm sure all those things are true. But he had a lot of juice. He had a good burst. He was getting his pads down and finishing runs. I liked what I saw out of Hayden, but let's talk about C.J. Stroud. I mentioned in my post-game observations, I said he's by far the best anticipatory thrower that Ohio State has ever had at the quarterback position. He makes 2 or 3 throws a game that even on the rewatch, it's like, what did he see there that made him think it was okay to release that football and it finds its way? And it's just, he had 3 of them in the first half, down the seam to Stover, the first touchdown to Fleming, my goodness. And then the one that I think was Harrison Jr. I forget who was on the other end of it. I think it was Harrison Jr. where it felt like he just dropped it in between about 5 defenders. I think one of the defenders almost got a hand on it. It just God, I mean, where am I wrong on that? I mean, where do you rank Stroud at this point? This has been such a great run of quarterbacks recently at Ohio State. Is he the best?
He's starting to look that way. Here in this recent run of quarterbacks, you start with the Dwayne Haskins, I guess, really with the Ryan Day era, if you will, and it seems like it's just progressing since then. It's crazy to sit here and think we're discussing C.J. Stroud being better than Justin Fields already, and Justin Fields being better than as good as Dwayne Haskins was in his 1 year start at Ohio State. But to your point, the anticipatory throws, it really goes back to, again, I'll bring up Dwayne Haskins, interview I saw him give a few years ago where he talked about throwing wide receivers open. C.J. Stroud seems like he really knows where that open space is away from the defender and can put the ball there so that only his wide receiver can make a play on that ball. And I think we saw it on some of those touchdown catches where it's either Marvin Harrison's going to get it or no one's going to get it. And so he's not really necessarily forcing him into tight windows, even though he obviously does that as well. But a lot of them are, my guys, I'm going to throw it to a spot where only my guy can go make a play on it. And I think that's what's separating him as his career is progressing as an Ohio State quarterback.
9 for 9 in the red zone. I'm seeing here almost 18 yards per completion tonight. Unbelievable. Let's punch through. We got a super chat already. Here we go. Oh, this will tee you up, Devin. Ryan Dawes, shut up about the defense, fans. Toledo played their hearts and butts out and off, and got lucky on a touchdown catch. They will win the MAC. I actually agree. I think they will win the MAC. I think people are gonna. My first observation post game was, don't tell me this was only Toledo. That was an offensive clinic. I don't care if it was Toledo Central Catholic, Toledo School for the Blind. That was an offensive clinic, and there will be worse defenses in the Big Ten that Ohio State faces this season than what they faced tonight in Toledo. But let's build off of that, Devin. What I know there are some things you want to see the defense clean up. Kind of your assessment of the defense tonight.
It seemed like passes are going to get completed, no matter who you're playing, how much better you're supposed to be, how many stars you got behind your name, what your draft rank is, etc. Passes are going to get completed on you. And we've heard Knowles allude to it after the Notre Dame game. You got to be able to put the dude on the ground after that pass is completed. And we're seeing now going into week 3 where receivers may be able to make a play in the ball, and we're not getting them on the ground right away. And that's going to be something that's going to need to get fixed going into conference play as a competition improves. Because that could be we get in a tight game, that could be the difference in a ball game. And it's not so much getting beat. We talk about that throw up jump ball touchdown pass that Toledo had, I think, for the last touchdown of the game. It wasn't so much that the wide receiver just won that rep over Burke in that particular circumstance. It was Burke had completely lost leverage and wasn't even positioned to make a play on that ball. I think is what the most frustrating thing is. And that's something that's going to need addressed, because again, this is going on to 2-3 weeks of being completely out leveraged in the pass game and pass defense, and not being able to make a play on the ball, let alone, like I was just talking about, putting them on the ground after that completion is made. So that's something that definitely is going to need to get fixed and be a big time point emphasis here as we're approaching conference play.
Yeah, I mentioned, I'm not hitting the panic button on anything with this team right now. I think, I put out my last thing was my top 5 right now, and I had Ohio State 2 behind Georgia. I think Ohio State's positioned well right now. I think the defense is improved. I never worried about the offense the first 2 weeks. There's too much talent on that offense. The coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball is too good for this offense not to be explosive this year. But I guess my concern right now, if I have a concern as far as the position groups moving into conference play, it is corner play. I'm a little worried about depth there. As you mentioned with Denzel losing leverage on that jump ball, that's not the first time it's happened to him this season. They've lost some one-on-one type battles, and so that's my not so much concern. That's my unanswered question maybe on this team right now is cornerback play, because I don't think they've faced great receivers yet either. Like I don't know that any of the 3 teams they faced yet have great receivers. Obviously Michael Mayer's an unbelievable tight end for Notre Dame, but in terms of outside guys, they're giving up some big plays. And, when they get into the, Michigan States and the Penn States of the world, guys who can make some big plays with their receivers, that's an unanswered question I have, I guess, for now.
Yeah,
is that fair?
No, that's a great way to put it. And again, it's one of those things. What are they going to do when they're across from a dude who also had an Ohio State offer? Lorenzo Styles, I believe Notre Dame was the one that comes to my mind as the guy that Ohio State wanted to come play wide receiver for them. So what are they going to do when they're playing a guy that's got the same amount of, I'll go use a stars again, same amount of stars behind their name? What's that going to look like? And again, that's something that's got to be fixed, got to be addressed. I know Jim Knowles talks about, if we hold them to 5 or less explosives, you're going to win the ball game, but still, you still like to see those limited. And it's a reoccurring, I guess you could say, chink in the armor we're seeing so far, the first 3 weeks of the season.
Let's quickly switch back to offense here. We do have the post game press conferences coming soon. It looks like they're getting set up right now. We will shoot over to those once they are at the podium. But I kind of had this rhetorical question in my head, and I know we have a graphic prepared specifically for this on the Heisman. It's a bit of a rhetorical question. Can you make a Heisman case against Toledo? Because if you can, CJ Stroud obviously did tonight. Now, maybe the argument is you can't. maybe the argument is that there's nothing he could have done tonight that would have improved his Heisman chances. But, you're Devin watching him tonight. And he started to get it going last week a little bit too, but is he the front runner right now? I think it's gotta be him or, maybe a surprise. I mean, Stetson Bennett's got things rolling for Georgia, but has Stroud done enough, I guess, so far through 3 games where as the early preseason betting favorite to win the Heisman, do you think he's hung on to that?
I think with the Heisman race, it's really, who are the returning contenders almost. Obviously, Bama's quarterback, Bryce Young, is obviously got to be up there. CJ Stroud, he came back. He's obviously back from last year. He's got to be up there. And he finally had a big breakout game, if you will, tonight against Toledo. So, got to continue momentum, keep his name in the front of that list, top of that list.
In the stadium,
we got Ryan Day
for this night game was unbelievable. And, we wanted to make sure that we played well in this game because of that. So I just want to thank Buckeye Nation for showing out in a big way.
All right, we're going to open it up with questions. We'll go over here to the left. Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, CJ, was that as good as you've seen from him? And how good is he at reading defenses? I think you've said that may be what he's the best at. But
yeah, he has very good vision. But I thought CJ had a good week of practice. I thought his attitude was excellent. I thought his work ethic was excellent. I thought the time he put in on his own was excellent. We had a tough week of practice. We did. We were physical on Tuesday, physical on Wednesday. We got a ton of reps. We just felt like we needed to do that. And he embraced that. That's a lot. It's, as the quarterback, you take a lot on. But his attitude was excellent. His energy was excellent today, and he played really well. I think he fed off having Jackson and Julian back in the lineup too, which was great. But I thought overall the combination of the run game and the pass game early on allowed us to get some momentum.
More than just a couple NFL throws into windows and
yeah, I mean he's very, very talented. And you saw I would say a wide variety of throws tonight, like you're saying. You saw some in the red zone and a couple on third down, and that's where you make your money as a quarterback, is in the red zone and on third down. We talked a lot about staying on schedule and making sure we didn't have any 3-and-outs in this game. That was important. Certainly the penalties were something that were lingering coming off of last week. So a lot of things. We still got a long way to go. But I thought the offensive line played physical, and they practiced that way this week. So it doesn't surprise me they played that way. But I thought we did a good job up front. Next week we got a conference opponent, so everything's going to be even harder. So usually we wait till Sunday to move on to Wisconsin. We'll do that as we leave the stadium tonight.
Over here to the left, Austin Ward, Rivals 97.1 The Fan.
Ryan, I'm not sure exactly what word was used at school session, but I felt like this team wanted a dominant performance, or you wanted one. Yep. Did this match up what you were expecting or hoping for?
Yeah, I thought, I would say so, but didn't come with without its faults, flaws, issues, things we got to keep growing on and building on. But I thought offensively we got to a good rhythm running. I thought we finished things off in the red zone well. We were physical up front. And I thought Toledo going in had a good front, and I still think they do. And it was good to get 2 turnovers on defense. Anytime you can do that when the offense is moving the way it does, that's how you flip the scoreboard like we did in the second half. So, their quarterback was very athletic and made a lot of plays, and we got to take a look at, how we can contain the quarterback better than that. And there were a few things there we got to clean up for sure going into conference play. But certainly when you look at the scoreboard, we're proud of what we did.
Over to the left, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Sorry to just move on to some of the personnel kind of bookkeeping stuff, but Proctor and McAllister and Mike Hall, none of them were on the availability report. Nobody played tonight. What's the situation with them?
Yeah, they were all available. We just felt like it was the right thing to do coming out of warm-ups to hold them in the game. But we're expecting them to be available for next week as well.
Early word on Trevion, what the extent of that is?
Yeah, there's a handful of those kind of things that are going on, but we haven't seen anything that we think is going to be long-term. So we'll kind of regroup after tonight and figure out where everything's at. But this was a situation with a lot of those guys that we just wanted to, out of the abundance of caution, make sure that they were 100% before we put them in the game. And same thing with Julian and Jackson. We got them some reps and then kind of got them out of there. So that was good. But yeah, there was a few things that were, a few guys that were struggling with a couple things that we decided to hold on.
Over to the right, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Ryan, how long have you guys been sitting on the I formation stuff? And I guess, what did you think of that? And then more generally, what have you thought of your sort of low red zone execution finishing off drives this year?
Well, we thought with the 100th year anniversary of the horseshoe that it'd be good to line up in the eye and hand the ball to the fullback for a touchdown. So we wanted to get that done this year. No, but Mitch is a weapon for us, and we're trying to build those packages. I think you saw what Cade can do. You saw his versatility now. Firstly, you know how tough he is and how physical he is at the line of scrimmage. But now you're starting to see what he can be a weapon in the passing game. We actually missed him a couple times in the end zone that were close. And then G. Scott is really starting to grow for us as well. He's become, somebody that can do a lot of things. He's an athletic tight end for us, so that gives us a little something. And then Mitch gives us a little bit of something as well. So that's exciting. Not having Jackson play really, in the second half of the first game and really in game two, not having Julian available has allowed us to build some depth, but also look at a couple different packages, which hopefully pays off for us moving forward.
Over to the left, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, kind of off that about the I form. I mean, you guys had a sweep to Emeka. You had the pass to Cade, like you said, probably could have been a touchdown. The hand off to Mitch. You have guys who can do a lot of stuff. How much does that open the book in the I form when you guys are down on the goal line?
Well, we want to be creative the best we can down there, and when you have those type of guys with those type of skill sets, they can do a lot of things. They can get physical in the run game, then create conflict for some of the linebackers and safety, run pass, but then also having the ability to get the ball in the perimeter like you saw in that one play. And that's a good job by the offensive staff, coming in there with different ideas on how to attack defenses. And anytime you can be multiple like that with groupings or formations, then you put defense in stress.
Over here to the right, Clay Hall, WSYX.
You finished 13 yards off the school record for total offense with 763. On the other side, how beneficial to defensive quarterback like Finn? How will that maybe help down the road?
Yeah, well, certainly there was some things exposed that we got to get cleaned up. And so, but that's growing as a team and growing as an offense, growing as a defense. And we'll get back and try to figure out what those are. And, I think the one good thing is, we, in the first game we play Notre Dame, and then we come back with two non-conference opponents here in Arkansas State and Toledo. So we've seen a couple different things. We've been challenged in different areas. So, we have 3 games under our belt to try to evaluate what we need to get fixed and what we need to keep enhancing going into conference play, which is good. I think that's healthy for us.
Far left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, you kind of touched on it, but obviously the explosive plays have been there these first 3 weeks here, but just the way you guys executed in the red zone this week with the variety, especially with the I-form stuff, like just talk about that and how happy you were with that today.
Yeah, well, we wanted to execute at a higher level this week going in and taking pride in our execution because we know that we can do that on offense. We can run the football. We've shown that we can do that. Now, it doesn't mean anything next week. All that matters is, what we do next week, but we've shown we can do that. We've shown that we can throw the football. And I think today you saw some of the play action where we put guys in run conflict that opened up some tight end throws down the field, a couple things that we did, which was good. So anytime you can run, play action pass, drop back pass, that's the sign of a good offense. And we need to keep building on that. And, we feel like if we put the work in during the week, and now it's just about execution on Saturdays. But we need to regroup and go have another great week of practice this week.
Front row right here, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, the opening of the coin toss, you didn't defer, you took the ball. Was that just kind of a sense of urgency and just want to jump on it right away?
I talked to the team about it, said, we want to start fast in this game. And typically that's not something that we do. It's very rare. I don't know if maybe that's the first time we've done it. Since I've been the head coach, maybe. I don't remember when we've done that before, but yeah, talked to them about it. And the guys like that. They wanted to get some juice going early on, and we felt like that was the right thing to do. But, when you do that, you got to go score the first possession. And we did that, and I thought we built some momentum for the day.
Got time for just a couple more. We'll go deep left, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, Jackson kind of speaks for himself coming back into the lineup, but to get Julian back, you guys talked about him so much being an Iron Buckeye in the offseason that he had. What did it mean to get him back in the lineup? Yeah, great for the room. You can see now the depth that we have, and when you're playing a full game, we're gonna need all those guys. We just are. And we knew we'd need all these guys. We didn't know that we'd need
all of them, in the first game against Notre Dame, like we did. Next catches the big touchdown pass, but yeah, we're going to need all these guys throughout the year. And Julian's had a really good offseason, so to see him come back, because he's had a few nagging injuries here and there, and then he's really made great progress. Has the Iron Buckeye, the whole thing's got a lot of momentum, and then gets this little tweak. The easy thing to do is get really frustrated. He didn't do that. He stayed positive, took care of his business, did a great job in rehab, and then to go see him make some plays tonight and get rewarded off of that was great. And he get 2 touchdown catches, right? So I mean, that's big for him. And he didn't play a full game. We just wanted to probably play him for about a half, and then hopefully build some momentum in the next week.
Front row right here, Tim May on 3.
Yeah, real quick, is Trivion kind of dealing with what he dealt with last year, off and on?
This was a new thing.
Okay.
Yeah, this was a little.
But what I want to follow with, thank goodness Dallin Hayton showed up. I mean, obviously you were talking about him, the pair and the spare aspect, and it showed up tonight. And what'd you just see out of him getting that extended action?
Well, he's practiced well. He's taken care of the football, and so is TC. Quite honestly, both of those guys have done a nice job in practice. But the number one thing for those guys, they have to take care of the football, because if they can build trust with the whole coaching staff, obviously the offensive staff, myself, Coach Alford, that's the number one thing: protection and taking care of the football. They've done that. Now they can let their natural ability take over. And I thought Dallin ran hard. He's done that in practice. So to see him in this, it's really his first time out play like this, you can see his quickness in the hole. He's got good vision. He's got power. And he's got a chance to be a really good back.
All right, Coach, thank you very much.
Have a good night, guys.
All right, folks, what we're going to do is I'm going to bring CJ Stroud up to this main.
We're going to quickly jump over to Toledo post-game room for a minute. Maybe not. Looks like they wrapped up. They both arrived at the exact same time. Sorry, we couldn't get both this week. They came out together. We will throw it to Ohio State when CJ Stroud comes out, and it looks like he is coming out right now. So here we go.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I've got Ronnie Hickman, Jack Sawyer, Julian Fleming, and Emeka was up here first, Cam, I'm sorry. And Emeka Abuka, all in the back. So, guys, if you can just go along the right here, there's 4 tables back there with tablecloths on. People are just going to gather around and ask you questions there.
Hey.
All right, we're going to open up to the front here with Bill Rabinowitz. A question for CJ Stroud.
Tonight, did it feel like anything you wanted to do, you could do?
First and foremost, I just want to give all glory and praise to God. Definitely had a blessed night, man. I just pray for really just protection over Toledo and us. And I definitely think that he had his hand over us today. So just got to give all glory and praise to him. But, yeah, I think we were clicking. Coach Day's message this whole week was just starting early. Just trying to be more consistent with the ball when we start with the ball, which we chose to do this game. And I'm not going to speak on that, but so we come out, connect on a couple throws, and I definitely think that got our juices rolling. Trey punches it in, and then at that time I think we're rolling. And then we I don't think we punted until that third quarter. So I definitely think that we started early, which was a great thing that we wanted to accomplish.
Okay, we're going to go over here for Clay Hall, and then we'll go to Rob Aller then.
CJ, folks were talking about 2 or 3 NFL throws there. How did you get the ball to Marvin early in the game over 2 defenders? It's like you threat. Do you know that?
I mean, we practice on throws like that. Coach Dennis and Coach Fitch definitely do a great job with repetition of that in practice, of just throwing over defenders and being confident while doing it. I definitely think that's the most important thing when making those type of throws, is being confident. And so they definitely feed that to me every week. And so shout out to Coach Dennis, Coach Fitch. We do our little 1-inch drills over I think those are baseball nets. And so we do that on the regular. But then, I give glory and praise to God at the same time too, just have that blessing of that vision. So I definitely don't think it's by accident. We definitely practice on that. I'm not 100% sure which one you're talking about, because there was a couple that Marvin had that were really good. And Marvin did a great job of going up top and getting those. So I definitely, he's a big body receiver. He has every aspect of his game has definitely been shown, and it will continue to grow. So excited to see what he does the rest of the year.
Okay, Rob Aller.
Yeah, CJ, how much film do you watch in a week? and you enjoy doing it. For some guys, it's a chore, but I get the feel that you enjoy it.
Yes, sir. Definitely. I definitely think the resources that we have at Ohio State with George, our film guy who gets me set up with everything, and I definitely just enjoy it just because it's kind of therapeutic to me. It helps me get away from certain like issues I may be going through at the time, or just away from the outside world. And I definitely just think that football is definitely something God called me to do. So if I can lock in for a couple hours and knock out some real good film study, then I can, one, help us win. But then when we do win, God willing, I can give his name all the glory and praise. So I think that kind of plays into it as well. Just God gave me the talent. Now I have to put in the work. So
I know your career is a progression, but did you have a moment over the last year where it clicked, where something clicked for you and it just kind of started to make sense and you could see, boy, I'm a different guy?
I'm not sure. I mean, I always kind of just try to keep my head down and work. I definitely think that my confidence is definitely boosted. I think that maybe that was a click. Maybe that was an on and off that I first put on maybe in that Rose Bowl game last season. Kind of playing confident in that game kind of forced me to be the momentum to roll and for me to be confident this season. And I definitely think just me being a leader and a captain on the team is when they see I'm confident, I think our offense and our whole team is confident, which is I think that's a great thing for the Buckeyes. So continue to build on that.
Over here to the right, Tim May on 3.
CJ, did you have any words of advice to Dallin Hayden? Obviously, he had to tote the rock a lot tonight because of a situation. But what have you seen out of him over the last month or so that gives you faith in him going down the road?
Right. I definitely just try to build him, just gave him some early confidence going in there. Just told him, man, and it was like, you've been playing this game since you've been 6 years old. It's the same game you've been playing. Just go out there, have fun. And I kind of forced him to take a deep breath with me back into the backfield. And once he didn't start like rambling or nothing, but I just made him do that just to relax, because I think that definitely helps. And he kind of calmed down. I told him, bro, you hit it hard enough, you're gonna break one. And so he broke a couple, which I'm really proud of. And he's a super hard worker. He practices really hard. Him and Coach Alfred are definitely on film study when it comes to protections and things like that. And Trey and Mayan do a great job helping him. And then TC does a great job as well with kind of the same role of just, if we need you, bro, you got to go in there and do your thing. And I definitely think they both had confidence on there, so I'm really proud of them.
Over here to the left, Steven Means, Cleveland.com.
CJ. It was just time till, he stepped into the spotlight and had his big moment. I was super happy for the game he had. Being able to score 2 touchdowns, that's huge. And it's huge for his confidence as well going into the later parts of the season. So I'm really happy for him, and he's going to continue to build and excel and thrive.
I mean, to have something completely new come up the way he did at the end of camp, a lot of guys that could be like really devastating. It could really like throw off their whole season. How did he sort of handle that mentally from what you saw?
I mean, he didn't get Iron Buckeye for no reason, you know what I mean? He has an iron mindset. That injury didn't send him back at all. There's certain guys who get injuries, and you can see the look in their eyes that they've been defeated. Julian's the complete opposite. He got the injury. He was in the training room 24/7, getting right, working with the trainers day after day. He wasn't right for Notre Dame. All right, that's fine. He wasn't right for Arkansas State. All right, that's fine. But he was here tonight, and everyone saw it.
How much did having Jackson back help open things up for this offense tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Jackson is a huge threat to any opponent he steps on the field with. It doesn't matter if we were playing Alabama or if we were playing tonight. Attention is going to be drawn to Jackson. You can count on him to win his one-on-one battles 24/7. So just having that on the field, sometimes teams are going to double, triple him. It doesn't really matter. And that just opens up the pass game and the run game. You're able to split seams. It's a big help.
Do you notice that when you're out there that you're getting more single coverage when Jackson's on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. You can feel the attention going to him. But the crazy part about it is that it doesn't really stop him too much. So he's definitely a special, once-in-a-generation type player.
Did it feel like the whole gang was finally back together tonight? I mean, with Jackson and Julian around.
Right.
I'm talking about the whole Zone 6 gang.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we have the best wide receiver room in the nation. And, we miss our guys. Still waiting on Cam Babb to get back. But with all of us together, I mean, we're most well-oiled machine that you'll find around. So I feel like the nation saw that today. A lot of guys put on display. You even saw people like JB step up. His first touchdown's a 72-yard touchdown. So it just speaks levels to the high-level athletes and high-character people we have in our room.
And did y'all openly talk about this week about being more consistent right out of the gate? I mean, you know what I mean? Obviously, y'all didn't punt till at least third quarter. You understand what I'm saying?
That was a big emphasis this week. That was part of the reason we took the ball first. We knew we had to get off to a fast start. We were able to do that tonight, and it felt great.
You've seen Julian work back from injury the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Your guy's been around here for a while. What does it mean for you to see a guy like Julian catch 2 touchdowns, have the kind of game that he had tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he's so professional, day in and day out. Every day matters to him. Every day is important. Every rep he takes on the field and every rep he takes in the training room, getting his body right. It was only a matter of time until he had a night like this and exploded. And I'm excited for what's to come for him. But even if he were to get another injury, no one would be too worried. He's a guy that's going to battle everything that's thrown his way. And, I'm pretty confident in him not getting another injury and because of the way he takes care of his body. And it's going to show every week.
You got a little ice on your hand. Are you all good there?
All good. Just jam my all good.
I think Tony's got some more players back there in the press room, so we're going to throw it to Tony's camera now and see what he's got.
Well, like we call it the brotherhood, and it really is a brotherhood. And in the past couple of years, I really feel like we really dove deeper into that and really making sure that everybody was a lot closer and really brothers. And I mean, just seeing some of the freshmen come in, or like JB, who's been here, he came in my sophomore year, and just seeing them excel and make big plays like that. Like TC's is crazy, JB's is crazy. Just seeing that, as a whole team it's a great experience, and it's something that you're not going to forget either, and they're definitely not going to forget. Yep. All right. Thanks. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
And keeping their D-line honest, and their D-line was pretty good. We knew this was a good Toledo team coming in here. They're nothing to play with. They love moments like this because that's how they show how great they are. So I definitely think that we answered the bell when it came to that, to starting early, and it's just about execution and taking pride in that. And I definitely think that we did that, and we'll continue to build. But it's going to take more because now we're going to Big Ten play, and we just got to be more and more focused and stick together and just keep rolling with this good momentum.
Great. CJ, thank you very much.
Guys.
We're going to call Coach Wilson up to the main podium then, please.
That I was able to, just keep the thing rolling, just with guys down and, be able to help and, provide them the role I was willing to give.
For the first drive, that's kind of a rough start for you guys.
I will open up, Coach,
Right
with Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Only give up, 14 more points the entire game. What does that say about you guys that you were able to rebound like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a big wake-up call, but it just shows, our resilience and, also just the standard we have. We knew that wasn't the way to come out, the way to play, and, we just knew that we had to back it up. The whole game through, and I feel like we were able to do that. Picked up a lot of good things in the second half. We were able to play a lot better. Still some things to correct on for sure, but I feel like we're heading in the right direction.
You said it's been a while since you got a full run like that. How do you feel right now? Like a good tired? What's it feel like?
Yeah. Body hurts a little bit, but I'm not complaining about it at all.
Yeah.
I'd rather feel that way than any other way. So I feel good. I'm just really happy. Excited I was able to play some football today. We're just really blessed for the opportunity and. Just ready for the next week.
You did everything in high school, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's it like when you go from a guy like that, right? Which a lot of you guys are, right? Like you're on the field all the time, and then you get here, and you're finding a role and you're contributing. But now to have a chance like this, like what's that moment like to be out there for the whole time?
Yeah, I mean it's really good. Really, like I said, really fun. To share with my family, tomorrow and tonight as well. But like I said, we just knew as long as this process has been for me. Since my freshman year. I feel like I've come a long way, and just being able to show it off in the field, and just be able to play the whole way through, felt really good to me.
Cam, from last week to this week, just your comfort level in that role. Do you see growth from just like the experience you got in that role you had to, last week to tonight?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, for sure. I would say growth for me has been every day. I feel like I'm growing every day. that game last week was really big for me, just to kind of get that feel in, just get the whole play, game flow, all that stuff. So I feel like that did prepare me for this week, and I felt really good and ready to go.
I know that's not how you probably would have wanted that first start to come with Tanner being hurt, but when that opportunity comes, how much more prepared do you feel for that now than you did a year ago, or certainly 2 years ago?
Very prepared. I mean, every year you got learning experiences, things you go through, things that's gonna build you and turn you into a better person. Coach Day always talks about it being a fight to be the best version of yourself, and I feel like I've done that ever since I came here, and I feel like it prepared me for this moment as well.
Do you know Daquan at all? Daquan Finn?
Yeah, I played against him my state championship year.
Oh, you did?
When I was a junior, yeah.
Oh, so what'd you think of him tonight?
Seemed like nothing has changed from high school. He was doing the same things, making plays, extending the plays. He had a really good game. Like I said, we were able to kind of contain him a little bit in the second half. But like I said, a lot of credit to him. He's a really good player.
Is it okay if we call this a showdown of the Mr. Footballs in Michigan?
I guess you could say that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean,
right?
he beat me in high school too. So.
You had to.
Yeah.
So you got.
All right, guys, we're bouncing around here. Got a lot of guys at the podium, players out and about, but we're going to throw it to Kevin Wilson, offensive coordinator now.
Separates the best is this ability to process information quickly. Where's CJ on that, and is he among the best you've seen?
Yeah, definitely one of the best. I in the game has evolved so much, as old as I guess I am to see it, but Sam Bradford was the first guy I thought had the quickest mind. And I would say CJ's rivals, his, and not only the ability to have a quick mind, but the ability to see and process. Because where's your vision? What do you see? I think he sees things very, very clearly. I think the way it works with Coach Day and Coach Dennis, he's very much in sync with what Coach Day wants him to do and where his eyes need to be and what his looks are and what his checkdowns are. And I heard him up here talking about, we're in a day and age where you guys cover him so much that if he throws an incomplete pass, it hurts his QBR. And it's sometimes. Years ago, I was taught that an incomplete pass wasn't that bad. I think Coach Hayes, the legendary coach, had a quote about that about things that happen when you throw the ball. And, we always said throwing away wasn't the worst thing ever. But in this day and age where it seems like you got to make every shot to not force into tight windows, the way our defenses played this preseason, he's had to scramble a lot, learn how to extend plays and make scramble plays. But he's very, very talented. He's very, very brilliant. And I think he sees the game for a young kid as well as I've ever seen a quarterback.
Over here to the right, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated.
Hi, Coach. Congratulations on a good night. Specific to Cade Stover, he feels like the quintessential Buckeye. He seems like the guy that just, emboldens everything that you guys are about. When you see his toughness and the way he picks up teammates and then the way he goes out and performs, how gratifying is that for you? And how does that help, build the culture that you guys try to build?
I mean, very much. I mean, I think you heard CJ Sego says, a guy he looks up to. He's a real leader because he leads by actions first. His work ethic, his durability, his consistency. I mean, he'll go out there and we GPS track those guys' yardage, and he's got a lot of yards in Tuesday, Wednesday practice, a lot of volume, but then he's up there blocking those defensive ends that are some of the most talented defensive ends in the country. And so the wear and tear that he puts and just his ability to consistently practice earns him great respect from his teammates. And, it seems like, you guys, we see him around here. We only notice those guys when they catch the ball, but that room's been pretty good blocking for several years. There's some toughness. There's some core values. Sometimes when we're not good running the game, it's our guys that aren't good on the edge, my guys. And when they're doing pretty good, they're actually pretty good. And so, again, I think he's much better athlete than people give him credit for. I think he's a great athlete, great ball skills. I think he's the quintessential tight end because he's got size, he's got toughness, he's not flashy, he's a little bit dirty, but he's got some ball skills. And I mean, our team loves him. I love him. I think he's a special player. I'm happy. Long way to go. We're just starting. Long way to go with him. I'm counting on a big year without that kid.
We'll go to Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Kevin, we heard about the depth at running back with the top three guys, and I know Evan obviously got hurt, but tonight you guys showed quite a bit more. What does that room give beyond maybe the top two guys that we saw the first couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, the top two guys are really special. We thought, again, the young guys are coming on. Now, TC's a walk-on guy. He's kind of popped in practice because he's going against the one defense. And that couple plays he made tonight, he's just got a little knack and feel. So for a walk-on freshman,
very instinctive and quick. Dallin was his ability to, when he makes a cut, he's still going vertical. He's downhill and he's up on you. And it's great for young kids that are learning how to take care of the ball. They're still learning the offense, but we'll need those guys for some wear and tear and some durability down the stretch. And those are two really talented young freshmen. Dallin's doing great. He's a good young player.
Austin Ward, Rivals, 97.1 The Fan.
Kevin, Mitch has been here for half a decade. When was that first moment that you thought, we might really have something that we can use here?
You know, I didn't 2 years ago. And I even told him, like, I think you're an NFL fullback. I don't know if you think that, but I think that. There's not a lot of guys that do that. And the NFL still plays with that position quite a bit. And he kind of came on. And as he came on a couple years ago and had a couple plays in a couple of our games, it got a little bit out of hand. And his special team role took off. And I'm glad he came back for this extra year. If he stays healthy, you know, maybe he gets an opportunity, maybe not. I think he's, you know, beauty in the eye of the beholder. But again, he and Kay give us maturity, give us toughness. They don't give us a lot of flash, but they give us great play. And those are, I sit in that room every day with two men that I have a lot of respect for. They're special players. Excuse me? No, one formation was called I right tight. So one was called jumbo and one was called heavy. So
we'll go here to the right. Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Kevin, you're 3 games in. How ready do you think this offense is for Big Ten play? What have you seen so far?
Big Ten play is different. It's more challenging. It's more physical up front. No disrespect. I had a lot of respect for Toledo's defensive line coming in. You know, the Notre Dame front that we play was very, very deep and talented. But when you get in the Big Ten play, it's a line of scrimmage league. It's a tough league. It wears on you week after week after week. We're starting with a big challenge with a great line of scrimmage team on both sides coming up next week when Wisconsin walks into the shoes. So it's as good as the offense might look. The offense is not good until the end of the year, and you can see how tough and how consistent it is. We got enough skill. Coach Day will do a great job as we put the game plans together to get guys opportunity to make plays. But the great teams are tough. They're consistent. They play week after week, and they find ways to get W's. And we'll see if this team's ready to be a Big Ten team as we start with a great challenge and we play week after week because it's a bear in this league.
We got time for a couple more questions for Coach, but we do need to start wrapping it up with Cam Martinez in the back. Over here to the left, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Kevin, we've seen how good CJ can be in the pocket for over a year now, but he seems to be expanding that to more movement throws, more play extension. Just how much better has he gotten at that area from your perspective?
Yeah, we've always tried to have a little bit in the pass game, moving in the pocket a little bit. Our defense with that umbrella coverage they play just forced us a lot during spring and preseason that the initial throws weren't open in practice or 7-on-7. Matter of fact, sometimes we call 7-on-7 drill now 7-on-8. Because they put a defensive end out there and drop the guy. It's like, geez, so there's nobody open. So you got to buy some time and scramble. And I think a year ago, someone had some stats. I don't know if I buy all the PFF stats because I don't know who does those stats and how accurate they are. But our worst stat that someone posted was scrambles of all the plays last year. When you looked at our quick passes, out passes, deep passes play, our worst pass play last year was scrambles. Well, we didn't work on it that much. We really weren't trying to work on it this year, but our defense forced us to, and it's gotten to where we're pretty good at it. And again, I do think the thing for CJ is when to scramble, make a play, and when to scramble and throw it away. And the hype that these quarterbacks get and all the accolades and the ratings and completion percentages. I say this story, but when I was a player, our completion percentage goal was 57%. I remember that number. That would put you in the bottom 50 of college football right now. That was our goal back then. And so his ability to just be smart and not force it and check it down and manage what's going on is, to me, what great players do. And, you know, he played great tonight. So, again, I appreciate the way he's playing. I appreciate the scrambles. And once in a while, I appreciate a throwaway because some teams are going to drop everybody. Maybe it's not there. Tonight he had a nice scramble when they dropped everyone, tucked it down, slid up there, and took us, I think, from second long into third and manageable and kept a drive alive, which was a great play.
And final 2 questions. First one from Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Kevin, the plays that Cade has made him a passing game for the last couple of weeks, would he have been capable of making those plays last year, or does that speak to how much he's grown as a pass catcher?
You
he's grown as a pass catcher. He worked a lot this summer, with behind scenes. Keenan Bailey's kind of working with the offenses, worked with receivers, and kind of got with him a little bit just in understanding coverages and attacking leverages of guys. And they spent some time together, behind scenes, just trying to be better. I think a year ago, sometimes he would rush some things, and when we were practicing, but also a year ago, he wasn't as complete as Jeremy, wasn't going to play as much. Those plays were kind of Jeremy's plays. And with the receivers had last year, they didn't get Jeremy's way. Jeremy wasn't good enough or they weren't there. Right now, Cade's coming on strong and he's good enough to get in the mix. And with if we can get the run game going, the play action comes off the running game. And sometimes that's where Mitch and Cade can be a little bit more. We're in the drop back game. Sometimes those guys maybe are 3 or 4 in some of your route progressions. In the play action game, sometimes they're 1 or 2. And that gets maybe the ball come their way a little bit. And Coach Day's doing a really good job of we're working hard. The one big play we had tonight at the end of the game to Ballard, we were really just trying to get a flat throw for G to get a touch for G. And they busted a coverage and it was a big play. So we're just trying to get G a touch. So as coaches, when we try to do things, that didn't work out a whole lot anyway. So.
And final question for Coach Wilson, Tim May on 3.
Yeah, Kevin, you might have been asked about this already, but Dallin Hayden, the way he came on in camp and stuff, has just kept progressing. And all of a sudden tonight, basically, he's your backup running back as the thing progresses. Just what have you seen out of him from your perspective?
Coming in, we knew he was a good recruit, and Tony does a great job coaching. But to me, instinctively, and TC, our young guy there, the walk-on players, saying, well, they're just instinctive when they make cuts. And because to me, there's a little instinct or feel or vision. When he makes a cut, and he makes a guy miss, but he's going forward. He doesn't stop his feet and start chattering. So he's able to be a downhill runner. To not be a big guy, he kind of runs downhill. He runs behind his pads. He's very instinctive. And to me, he flashed the first couple of days like, well, that's just a nice run. Maybe it's a 4 or 5 yard play, but that was a nice cut. That was instinctive. That was natural. He's got a chance to be a really good back.
Great. Coach, thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much.
Go Bucks.
Special thanks to Keith Frisch, our electronics guy. Thank you so much, buddy.
All right, guys. I think we're done from the podium. Devin, let's get back to the defense real quick. We talked about that jump ball for that 3rd touchdown. The first 2 touchdowns, though, I mean, how much of that was what Ohio State did either schematically or what the players did wrong, and how much that was look, Daquan Finn made some really nice plays out there. That first one, he's scrambling around, it's a great throw. So I guess, how much of that was Ohio State versus how much of that you have to kind of just tip your hat to Toledo a little bit?
If I recall correctly, the first touchdown was the 50 or so yard touchdown pass on Cam Brown.
Yes.
If I recall correctly. And he just never really got in a good, I mentioned again, leverage position to play that route. It was just a post route. Middle of the field was wide open. And the way Cam played it, he was playing it like either he was expecting middle of the field help. So I don't know if it was a bust in coverage or he just lost his leverage at the snap. So if I remember correctly, it was a condensed formation. So Cam may have had outside leverage and he never was able to regain or gain really inside leverage, meaning the body position on the wide receiver to prevent that wide receiver from attacking the middle of the field. So again, it's hard to know exactly how it's supposed to play out without knowing the play call and where his help was going to be. But if he was expecting middle of the field help, he never got it. And if he was not getting a middle of the field help, he never put himself in a position to take away the middle of the field by how he was playing the routes. So that was the first thing. These are, and again, before everyone on the message boards and on social media, etc., go off the deep end about, here comes the woes again. This is all going to be on film. This is all stuff the coaches can work on and can fix in practice, just like anything else that you can work on. The second touchdown, again, just going off the top of my head, that was where the quarterback.
It's a scramble play. They looked like they had him dead to rights, and he just got out to the right. And
two big scrambles on that drive, if I remember correctly, both on 3rd down. And what I recall from that is Knowles had schemed it up and had a call on where he had I guess you'd say a spy, for lack of a better term. I believe the first one was defensive end 8. Batiste, if I recall correctly, was in a position to, it looked like, to play that quarterback scramble. It looked like they wanted to force him to step up. And 8 was in position to make a play, or had an opportunity to make a play on that quarterback, put him on the ground, and missed that opportunity. Later on, then again, it looked like Knowles had a similar concept called, had a double edge rush going. I can't remember exactly who was blitzing. I think it was Eichenberg and I think Sawyer off the top of my head. I can't recall, but
yes, Sawyer almost had him on the touchdown run.
And Chambers was again in that position where it looked like it was drawn again. It looked like it was drawn up for Chambers to be the spy this time, and he did miss the tackle. I don't think.
Yeah, he didn't quite close.
He didn't
try to close.
Swiped the leg and it was out the gate from there. And the thing is, with the type of coverage Knowles likes to play a lot, you're going to have situations in which the defensive backs are going to be to the quarterback. So they are not going to see that until it's too late. When you want to play tighter man coverage type stuff, your defensive backs aren't going to be in an immediate run support position for those to break. So when you're in position to put a dude on the ground, you've got to put that dude on the ground, or you're going to see drives like Toledo had with the quarterback make one dude miss, and 2 different times on that drive he was out the gate for big plays. One being ended up being the touchdown, of course.
Now, obviously, I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit here because we don't have the play up here in front of us, but on the touchdown run, on the scramble, it looked like the defensive lineman kind of got out of their lanes. The gaps were enormous there, and I know Steele's coming down trying to fill, but was there maybe did Sawyer get too wide?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I remember, or it was it's how they ended up blocking it, fanning the protection out, and pushing the rush lanes wider to create that space for the quarterback to step up. And again, that's something you put on tape and got to fix. Luckily you can afford those mistakes and eat those mistakes when your offense is putting up, 1,500 yards and, 150 points or whatever the total end up being. But again, this is stuff you got to fix. It's still non-conference, but again, this got to get tightened up quick. Conference play coming up. So it doesn't manifest itself again when it really can't afford it to.
Here's where I think the difference is so far, though. We're talking about some of these mistakes, these little fixable breakdown type things, but you also, we saw some corresponding big plays, some sacks, they finally got some turnovers tonight. It's last year, it just felt like in between the huge coverage busts, teams were still getting 8-10 yard chunk play. Like it wasn't like, for every big play they gave up, they, created turnover or a sack or something. I feel like tonight there's going to be some good there on tape as well. What did you think? I guess I thought the defensive line, it wasn't one of those like 6 or 7 sack games, but I felt the defensive line made them. I think Toledo's offensive line felt them. You know what I mean? I thought the defensive line, the young guys up front, especially the ends, were noticeable. What did you think of, the front four tonight?
So for all 3 games so far this season, defensive line has been really, really good in knocking, run game. You heard him talk about in the preseason, creating that knockback or block destruction. You're getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback that's forcing these scrambles. I mean, the quarterback's running for a reason. These weren't called runs where he took, put the ball by his ear and set up a draw and took off. I mean, he's running because he's getting forced out of there. Now you just got to take that next step, get that turn the page, get that hip turned and start putting that quarterback on the ground when you get there so he can escape. They did it a few times tonight, of course, and they did, they've done it the first couple games. But again, that's something you got to continue to improve on and get that extra step, or what's that one missing pass rush counter move while you're not hitting home, or is it just because I'm just flat out taking a bad angle and not putting them on the ground when I get around the corner there as a defensive end? So these are all things you watch on film and try and improve on during practice and really narrow down on how do you make that next progression as a defensive line.
Yeah, and so we've talked about the secondary. Secondary was a little shorthanded tonight as well. A couple safeties out. I guess how do you now transition from what you just faced Finn is probably, if not the most mobile quarterback they're going to face, definitely, top two. Maybe they'll run into someone in a playoff situation, but you're going to kind of go opposite direction now with Wisconsin. It's going to be one of those kind of manhood testing games. I guess how hard of an adjustment is that from 1 week to the next? Because I think they're about to do a kind of a 180 on what they're facing.
So this was a game, that everyone was asking Coach Knowles about in preseason when we got here. Okay, you've been in the Big 12. You had a lot of success. However, welcome to the Big 10. What are you going to do against Wisconsin when their tight ends are 6'7", 315, and, their running backs are 265, and, they're all these ginormous, and they just want to smash you. How's your spread D from the Big 12 going to adjust? And he's addressed. They say, hey, we'll sub package it kind of in reverse operations. We'll have a sandback roll put in there. But again, I think it goes back to me, it all starts up front, and the fundamental shift in defensive line play can and will carry, I believe, will carry over from week to week, because it also goes back to block destruction. Squeezing a down block, spilling a kick out block, putting your hat in a hole against zone schemes and pushing that guy back and eliminating the cutback. That's all stuff that carries over. Forget about what's in the backfield. If you win on a line of scrimmage, it doesn't matter what the offensive scheme is behind you. And they've done a good job of rotating bodies in and out all three games. So that's going to be huge against Wisconsin. When you get in the coaching circles and talk to college coaches, anybody that's played Wisconsin will tell you that is the one game where they're just like, we've got to play like 15 defensive linemen, because we are going to be down to 6 when this game's over, because win or lose, they are going to pummel us all game long. So that is encouraging to see that Ohio State seems to have some depth and took some preventative measures tonight with Hall resting going into this game. To me, it'll be interesting to see who that next backer is, if they're going to play with 3 true linebackers in this game, who that guy's going to be. I couldn't even fathom a guess right now. I'd assume you'd see the top 3 so far that we've seen, but maybe they got a guy with a unique skill set who can go up there and play as an old school Sam linebacker and play on line scrimmage and play off the ball. I don't know which guy. I couldn't even fathom a guess who that would be, but do they have a guy like that? Do they play 5D lineman? You got the jack backer they're using a lot between Sawyer and 44. His name I'll mispronounce.
Tuimoloau.
I was going to butcher it, so I wasn't going to try.
It took me about 12 months covering him on the recruiting trail to finally get it right.
Yeah, so they play 5 true defensive linemen? I don't know. I'm just spitballing ways you can counter some of the big heavy run stuff you're going to see from Wisconsin. Nothing I recall from talking to coach along the way. When we play Wisconsin, you got to spend 80% of your defensive practices on about 20% of their offense. Just you don't see it anymore. And I think part of what I'm guessing here, and I don't want to get myself in trouble, but I think part of the reason why Coach Day is putting this emphasis on this goal line package is because this is Wisconsin. This is in Iowa. Now your defense has to see it every day, or not necessarily every day, but the defense is seeing it, getting live reps at it. So, they're incorporating it in their offense, but 2, now it's also giving their defense something they got to get ready for as well. So when they get to Wisconsin week, when they get to Iowa week, they're not starting over from scratch and going, hey, this is a fullback. These are a couple tight ends. This is how we got to fit it up. They've been doing it already in practice.
Yep. We got Tom Orr here. He's back from the abyss. Tom, how about the offense tonight?
I think we got to talk about that punt on 4th and 3 in plus territory. Ryan Day, I don't understand. You had a chance to go 11 for 11 on touchdowns. What are we doing here? No, that was as dominating a performance as I've seen. I think it was. I was in the Toledo postgame room, and Jason Candle. It's very interesting to hear all of these visiting coaches. He said a lot of the same stuff that Marcus Freeman said. This is just. He talked about this just being a monster opponent, and just it was almost just like the shrug emoji. Like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, you saw what they have. Like, what do you want me to do with that? And he talked about the same stuff that Marcus Freeman did with you think you've got him, you think you've got C.J. Stroud on the run, and oh boy, we're going to get off the field on 3rd down, and he just throws a ball that's like, well, this is certainly going out of bounds. and then someone is right on the sideline to drag a toe, catch the ball, move the chains, and your defense isn't off the field after all. It's very interesting that, you know, you're starting to see a little bit of a pattern with coaches saying the same thing over and over again. And, you know, I mean, the Ohio State offense tonight, who hasn't complained about the Ohio State offense? I mean, they scored from a little closer in than I would have liked on the first 9 touchdowns or so. So that doesn't make for great pictures. But other than that, like, yeah, I don't know. That's about the complaint that you can come up with.
I made a kind of a comment, my post-game observations I don't think we really talked about yet. Julian Fleming, 2 touchdowns tonight. The first one was a tremendous catch. There was nothing inherently special about the second one. He was open. He caught the ball. He made a nice little move there, and there was a seam there to get in the end zone. But for someone who has been through a lot of injuries, has admitted that it took him a little time to realize kind of what it takes from a preparation and work ethic standpoint to be a star at this level. All the setbacks he's had, and through no fault of his own, the transfer rumors every spring that seem to pop up with him, and when's he going to be in the portal? And what can a game like this, Devin, do for his confidence? I mean, I think this was. Everyone's going to look at this, it was Toledo. It was a 2-touchdown game. One of them, the game was out of hand. Like, why are we making a big deal? I look at this the opposite. I think this is huge. I think from a confidence standpoint, this could be one of these moments that maybe changes his career if he can stay healthy. I mean, Devin, what did you think about Fleming tonight?
Yeah, it was really nice to see him get in the end zone a couple times tonight. Because again, like you documented it, you've been covering him from when he was a recruit. He hasn't had that immediate takeoff like some of the receivers have here recently at Ohio State, where as soon as he stepped on campus, he was getting reps with the ones and catching touchdown passes from Stroud and Justin Fields. I mean, he had to really work trials, tribulations to get to where he was at, and to see him get in the end zone a couple times. And this season was supposed to be his year. Coming off the Rose Bowl, he should have, could have been a starter right out of the gate, and then has to sit 2 weeks, come back. So to see him come back and have a big game like he has, also, it was really nice and really nice to see, and can only help his confidence, especially, I keep talking about going into conference play to know, hey man, I can do this. I can play at this high level. I am that, it's going to sound like I am that guy. At one point, if I recall correctly, wasn't he the number 1 recruit or number 1 receiver?
Had him number 1 overall in the country, regardless of position. He was ESPN's number 1 player.
Yeah, he was that guy coming into Ohio State. So, if you follow college sports long enough, there's plenty of that guy coming in that you never hear from again for various reasons. So he very easily could have been a guy that said, you know what, this ain't for me. And like you said, he stuck it out, and you heard the players talk about it in the preseason. They talked about tonight even. He won the what are they calling it? I was going to say champion level. They got a new name for it for his off-season work.
Right.
Iron Buckeye. Iron Buckeye.
Yep.
He was the Iron Buckeye, and you're seeing it pay off on the field for him now, finally. So hopefully you just, knock on all the wood you got around you. Hopefully it continues for him.
Tom, I mean, what did you see from Fleming down at field level? And, I don't know how close you're able to get to some of the action, but there had to be maybe an extra gear of excitement there or from his teammates and just the whole thing just we've always been through.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where, the sideline just erupts when he gets to do something, because he's someone who I think is easy to root for, because he came in with the expectations of the 5-star and the expectations of the number 1 receiver in the country and the number 1 overall player in the country. And then just through no fault of his own, just the shoulder and the hamstring. And he has to hold the school record for most times on the game time decision list and not playing. It's just constantly, well, we're going to hold him out for precautionary reasons. And then when he does get on the field, it's at Nebraska last year and he makes an incredible catch and they rule it out of bounds. And, it has been a bunch of just, well, almost. And you keep hearing from coaches, like he's making these incredible plays in practice. And you keep hearing that, and it's like, when are you going to see it on the field? tonight was the night when you finally saw it on the field. And there are guys who just have that kind of struggle that are just, it's really easy to root for them to finally have that success. And, you hope that Cam Babb has a night like this at some point, later on this season, because that's someone else you kind of like to see it pay off for. But that's not just an Ohio State thing. Like Ronnie Bell, it's great to see Ronnie Bell do great for Michigan this year, because he had a really rough season last year where he was coming back, ready to have sort of an impact senior season, and then he blows out his knee the first game and doesn't get to play again that year. So, that is sort of a universal college football thing, that the guys who, have that kind of long and winding road to the field, especially the guys who come in with the expectations, those are the guys who people are really excited for. But, you look at the photos from tonight, and we'll have a gallery up a little later on, but, in the background of Jaden Ballard's long touchdown, guys are going nuts on the sideline. Mick Marotti, Mark Pantoni on the sideline with big smiles on their faces as Jaden Ballard goes whizzing by, because, they know he had a season last year where he didn't do a lot, and, sort of working his way to get into that rotation, and to see that finally pay off, that's cool. That's cool for Julian Fleming. That's cool for Jaden Ballard. That's cool for TC Caffey. That's cool for Dallin Hayden. I mean, all of those guys. So a lot of guys got to make their first mark, it feels like, tonight,
including Sonny Styles.
Yes.
Tell me you got a shot of I mean, he's running around, he's knocking everyone's head off. Anything that moves, he's hitting. Should still be in high school. My Lord.
Yeah, he should have been doing that. I was talking to some buddies, and I said, he should have been doing that last night. I mean, literally, the kid's, I don't know how old he is, but he's supposed to be, he should have been at the game as a visitor. Right. I mean, he with his age and whatever, however, graduating early and to go out there and do that, that's something else. Cause we're talking about young men, but even Hayden's a whole year older than him. And, to see Sonny Styles come out and do that, even though it's in, end of the game, he did not look like your typical freshman. And then the fact that he's not your typical freshman on top of it, it really is, can show you a glimpse of what that guy could become in the future.
He's as gifted as an athlete as I've ever watched, I think, at the high school level, and certainly in the state of Ohio. The last 10, 15 years, he's on the short list. And even I keep tempering expectations about him. Like, hey, he might not play at all this year. Like maybe some special teams, maybe he works his way on a kickoff team by the end of the season. And, it's garbage time, but he's just out there flying around hitting people like, he's been doing it all his life. That was like his first real, I think, legitimate opportunity. And it was just incredible how natural he was. There was no nerves. He just see ball, hit ball type of thing. And wow. So that's something I guess to be excited about here moving forward. One interesting stat that I'll reel off here, and we're going to throw it to those guys here in a second, but one interesting stat, as we were talking about Fleming there. So they had two receivers catch, I believe. Yeah, they had two receivers have multiple touchdowns tonight. Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming. They had two receivers go over 100, or they have three. Did three over 100? Jaden did go over 100. So they had three receivers go over 100. They had four receivers catch at least one touchdown. None of these people were Jackson Smith and Jigba. How do you defend this offense? I mean, Devin, what on earth? Where do you start? How do you stop this passing attack?
Well, if you've got to look into, ironically enough, the kind of stuff that Knowles can kind of hang his hat on, and how he likes to talk about bracketing certain guys and forcing the ball where you want it to go. That's one of those things where you can't stop everybody. So it's kind of, you kind of take the approach.
Where do you want it to go?
And I think you saw Toledo try and do that some, which is why some of these guys were open. It's like, all right, we know in this formation, we're going to have to adjust on the field and check this coverage, this double coverage, if you will, on Harrison Jr., let's say. And, Stroud finds the other open wide receiver, but at least Harrison Jr. didn't catch a touchdown, because we knew in this down and distance or this formation, this is where they're going to go. So let's force CJ to work his way around and find the next wide receiver. Another thing you talk, do you sell out, stop the pass? Just speaking at a big picture level, and kind of let's just say like Notre Dame and say Notre Dame game. All right, you're not gonna Utah us, have a Rose Bowl type game on us, and force Ohio State to hand the ball off. And can they hand the ball off 10 times a drive and go down the field and score on you? So that's what things you got to look at as defensive coordinator is, all right, where are our strengths? How are we going to force Ohio State to defend this offense? We're going to force them to try and beat us try and find their left hand and force them to beat you that way.
All right. Thanks, Devin. Appreciate it. Great job as always.
Thank y'all.
Looks like the crew over there is ready. I feel a little bit guilty. I always feel like I'm passing my children off to like two irresponsible uncles or something when I do this. And I feel like I have some liability here for doing this, but I am going to turn it over to Tony and Tom.
First, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Moore. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, you asked me right before we started recording, did you have a good night shooting photos? And I said, well, I missed like 4 Ohio State touchdowns just because, refs get in the way, or, it's like, oh, it's on the other side of the goalpost, or one of the other photographers steps out or whatever. It happens. So I was like, wow, 4 touchdowns. That's a bad night. Unless there are like 7 other touchdowns. And so this was a night where even if you weren't a particularly good photographer, you probably got at least a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, 8 different Buckeyes scored. 3 of those guys scored twice to get you the 11 touchdowns in that 77-21 victory. And they could do no wrong. We talked before the game. Why don't they just run and pass? Why not, make the black box, make the entire plane out of the run and the pass. And they did that. And yet we also said, this feels like one of those games where CJ Stroud has like 280 yards passing in the first half. And I think he had like 297. And he finished with 22 of 27 for 367 yards with 5 touchdowns, 81% completion percentage. His passer rating, 256.8, 0.2 of a point better than Kyle McCord, who finished 5 of 7 for 115 yards with 1 touchdown, a 256.6 passer rating. Sorry, Kyle, not good enough.
That's why he's the backup.
And you even got to see Devin Brown. There were so many players playing in this one. When Reese Stocksdale is in the third quarter, I believe, and that was probably that was a product of Jackson being not in the game in the second half. So all of the slot receivers move up one, but yeah, it's fun when this is the game I think we were expecting last week that we talked about where you're going to see a bunch of guys, you're going to see everybody and their grandmother out there. And this was the one where 2 walk-ons carried the ball, and we'll eventually get to TC Caffey, but this is a fun one to watch offensively and even defensively because you got to see plenty from a bunch of guys. And I heard Mark talking about Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles laying some wood out there and a little bit of action, so that was good to see.
Yeah, this was the game. You nailed it exactly. This was the game where you thought this was going to be what the Arkansas State game looked like, because that's Arkansas State's a 90-something, 100-something in the country, and Toledo is a 50-something in the country. And Toledo's this is not a bad Toledo team, and I think you saw flashes of. At least on the offensive side of the ball, you saw flashes from Toledo of like, oh, this is probably a pretty good Toledo team. Oh boy, that was thorough. That was decisive. Jason Candle after the game just said his whole press conference was just basically one big shrug emoji, just like, yeah, man, what do you want me to do? Like you saw what they had. It was just it was like Godzilla has come to town. Like, yeah, man, I've got what I've got, and it's not enough to deal with that.
And that was with the starting running back carrying the ball 4 times for 19 yards, Travion Henderson, and leaving the game. And that was, I think, maybe the first drive. He had 4 for 19 and then didn't really play again after that. And then it was the Mayan Williams and Dallin Hayden show. And that was also with Jackson Smith and Jigba playing a half, Julian Fleming playing a half. Kevin.
We have a super chat.
We have a super
King
chat.
Bronco. and we know that it's going to be a little rough with him. Just want to wrestle with anybody, but I seen my mammy eat teeth, but want to show a TV. I don't know, basically 42-27 is his typical thing.
Okay, so big if true.
Well, you know what? The super chat should be 42-27 then.
Yeah.
Until it is, we don't have to take his questions.
Yes.
But you well said, King Bronco. You're absolutely right. Mammy, 100%, totally.
So anyway, I think you looked at the Ohio State offense tonight, and it was just, they're not going to put 77 points on everyone they play, but that's probably a pretty good Toledo defense. I talked to our buddy Kyle Rowland from the Toledo Blade in the elevator on the way back up, and I said, so you're looking at a game against LIU, a game against UMass, and a game against Ohio State, and they shut down the two atrocious teams, and they just got put in a wood chipper by the really good team. So what do you make of this Toledo defense? And he said, they've been 35th in the country the last couple of years in defense, give or take. He thinks they're probably about that, and it was just, this is one of those yeah, man, what are you going to do kind of games.
Yeah, Toledo had nothing for Ohio State, but they scored first, 8-9 drives were touchdowns, and maybe more than that.
Well, it was they scored 11 touchdowns in 12 drives.
Yeah.
And the only one that they didn't score, they had 4th and 3 on the plus 39, and probably could have scored on that one had they wanted to push it. And they were 11 for 13 on 3rd down and 1 of 1 on 4th down. So 12 of 13 converting third when you got to 3rd downs. I don't know what the stats are for teams all time giving up, getting a team to 3rd down 13 times and giving up first downs on 12 of them. I can't imagine the winning percentage is particularly high.
36 first downs in that game. That's up there. That's
and this is a question that you will never ever hear me ask. But what did they end up with in terms of total yardage? Because it was 763 total yards. I was down on the field, kind of keeping an eye on the rushing and passing totals on the scoreboard for reasons that should be obvious to Buckeye Weekly podcast listeners. And it was kind of looking at the total rushing, the total yardage. And at one point they were at 699. I was like, boy, I can't remember the last time they were over 700 in a game. And then it was like, they might have 2 more drives. They might get to 800. And I don't know that they've ever gotten to 800.
I believe they were over 700 one year against Cincinnati is another Ohio team.
They might have
years
done it
ago.
It could have been the Bowling Green game where they got to 77 points.
And then somebody mentioned they were 15 yards short of the school record for total offense. And if they wanted it, they could have. This is one of those games where if they wanted 1,000 yards and 100 points, they could have gotten it.
Yeah, and we've got our wonderful producer has all the stats up on the screen for you right now. Total yards. I always kind of my thoughts on total yards, but 482 passing yards, 281 rushing yards. Run 22 more plays than Toledo does. It's just there are only so many ways you can say they had nothing for it, but they had nothing for it, and you get the sense, and we'll see. We have seen lots of we have experience already looking at Ohio State beating a team and saying, wow, that's a really good opponent, and then that not necessarily bearing itself out. Notre Dame now has a transitive loss to Bowling Green. After Bowling Green beat Marshall and Marshall beat Notre Dame. And Notre Dame barely squeaked by a bad Cal team today. So, you got to kind of, we'll see. You're getting a sense that this might be a decent Toledo team, but we'll see when they play a team with a pulse.
Kevin.
Super chat from Jordan Kapler. If there's something wrong with the Buckeye Huddle site, I had a bold prediction that TC Caffey would have a 49-yard touchdown, and now I can't find it. Someone owes me fake internet points.
Yes, Jordan Kapler is saying that somebody has doctored his bold prediction that TC Caffey would have a 49-yard touchdown run, and now he cannot find it on the message board. And you know what? The thing about message boards and stuff disappears all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like the internet is not forever. So stuff can just be swept away, but that is not one of them because you 100%, Jordan, with all due respect, you are a liar. You did not have TC Caffey going for 49 yards. It was 47, sir.
Thank you for the super chat, valued viewer and subscriber, Jordan Kapler. We truly appreciate your patronage and support.
So I'm, I don't know where you saw the play from, if it was coming at you, but I was down in the corner here, and I lost him in a pile, and then he just comes running out of that. Like, what's he doing? Is he just is he making this about himself and is just trying to, like, he gets tackled and gets up and he's going to celebrate and run to the end zone, and then the defense keeps chasing him. And that was a spectacular run by a very, very good high school running back, Hubbard, I believe.
Yes.
And Kevin Wilson after the game was like, yeah, I don't know how we got him. He was under-recruited for sure, but we've always liked him.
Yeah.
Another OSU staffer I was talking to on the sideline, and after that, he was shaking his head, and I'm like, what's wrong? You're up a bunch. He's like, I can't believe not a single MAC school recruited TC.
Yeah.
It's like, you're game.
Yeah, I assume people can hear Kevin talking, but yeah, he basically an OSU staffer on the sideline saying they can't believe no MAC school recruited TC Caffey. It's just, they have lots of, you'll see walk-on running backs, and a lot of times it's kind of like, oh, good for you. You got to run one time for 8 yards, and that's wonderful. He looks like, maybe he's more in that Xavier Johnson walk-on mold where a couple of years from now, maybe he's on scholarship, or, maybe he's, maybe his phone's ringing at some point from, not that any coaches would reach out when players were not in the transfer portal. That would be tampering, Tony.
Yeah.
That would never happen in the sacred sport of college football.
It's funny how we talk about, like, we don't like to put players in the transfer portal. We don't like to talk about transfers. This is one where it's like, again, we're not throwing him in the portal, but if he wants to go play, and that's going to be an option for him, I think.
Well, and the running back depth at Ohio State being what it is right now, there's only 3 healthy scholarship running backs. If one more guy gets hurt, guess who's the spare and the pair and a spare? It's probably him. And he not only was kind of wrapped up in the backfield, but also coming down the sideline, looked like he was tackled again, broke another tackle, came right towards me. The photographer who was next to me said he lost him in the pile and looked up over his camera, like, where is this? And he's like, who's this person running towards me? That's the same guy from before. Like, how did he do that?
Yeah, well, and there's been talk that maybe they want to try to find the right second running back in the 2023 class with Mark Fletcher. Maybe it's TC Caffey, because he's going to redshirt. I doubt he's going to play more than 4 games, and maybe he becomes a scholarship running back next year.
Yeah, and we'll see. You don't want to overreact, but he is someone who let's kind of create the checklist for what would it take for that to happen. It would have to be a guy who, hypothetically had, as a true freshman walk-on, already lost his black stripe. Well, guess what happened earlier this week? TC Caffey lost his black stripe. So, we'll see. I'm sure they would you'd like to see him in additional situations where there's maybe a little more on the line, but it is a situation worth monitoring and a name worth knowing for sure.
He finished with, 6 carries for 57 yards, and it would not shock me if he finishes the season with 6 carries for 57 yards, just because it is very rare for a walk-on running back to play. But as you said, they've got 3 scholarship running backs, and they like to protect them in games like this if there are various ailments that are hindering some players. They don't want to push them too far. And then you've got this guy who looks pretty good. Who else looks good is Mayan Williams. Maybe the most entertaining running back to watch in the Big Ten. It's just, he's really, really good, really smooth and hard to tackle. But Tom, now I want to talk about Dallin Hayden. Wearing that number 5, he was looking like Michael Wiley out there. And like I told Kevin and Tim May, let's see how he throws first before I start throwing that Michael Wiley comparison out there. But he's a smooth dude too.
Yeah, and he had a really nice night. What did he end up with? He
was over 100.
Yeah,
108.
Yeah, 108 yards for Dallin Hayden. And that, again, it's the second half. He did play. We did see him in the first half. You saw him in the second quarter, which that was one of those, like, oh boy, like they are really thinking this is over. The rotation got pretty deep pretty early, but yeah, he's someone who you saw a little bit against Arkansas State, but I don't think he finished with more than 10, 15 yards or something like that last week. So okay, now you've seen it, and once the ball starts rolling downhill, the snowball sort of picks up size and speed and momentum, and it's probably a little easier than it would have been in the first quarter. But still, he runs hard. He, was decisive about hitting holes. There was a play where I saw Toledo running back kind of trying to go up the middle right towards the end, and just was like standing there, just literally just jitterbugging in the hole, and it was like that is not what you want to do. Dallin Hayden was authoritative and really hit the hole hard. We got another super chat.
Yeah, super chat from Jake. Thank you guys for all the amazing coverage and content you provide. It's sincerely appreciated by so many. Hayden reminded me of JK.
You know, he gets upfield really quickly, and JK could dance, but would that I can't say he could dance like he could the whole jump cut, like he would make us miss, but he would get upfield like that as well. And had Dallin Hayden's just surprisingly quick, and Kevin Wilson said the same thing. Like he didn't realize until he saw him like on practice field, like how quick and fast and decisive he was. And that's something that JK was. He was decisive, and he made his one cut, and then he got where he was going. And if he had to make a couple more, he would. I'm interested to see what Dallin looks like, more in traffic. But he got the corner, he gets upfield. It was just a very smooth performance by him, I thought, and he's only going to get obviously bigger and better and stronger and faster. He did say he's kind of nervous going into this game, knew he was going to – he's standing next to Tony Alford, and Tony's like, get ready, and then the butterflies start. But he said after a couple of carries, he was fine. But after he had 3 carries for 30 yards. He didn't look nervous once he had the ball. We hear about how often he was breaking big runs in practice, and there were a couple out there where it's just like, yeah, that one was close. Like the 9-yarder, the 11-yarder, you got one guy to beat, and you could be gone.
And, I think you also saw a little bit of he's a true freshman. He's young. He's got to kind of grow a little bit. There was a couple times at the goal line where, he had that long run down to the 3 or the 2, whatever it was. And, you have a long run down there. They're going to feed that guy and try and reward him. And it was like, okay, here it goes. And then he didn't get it. And then the second down, and then he didn't get it. And then third down, Ryan Day, in one of the all-time great jerk moves, fullback dive, just screwing with Toledo in the funniest possible way. Just, okay, everyone's all keyed up to, okay, well, they're going to certainly give this kid one more try. Like, whoop, nope, fullback dive.
Yeah, and he mentioned after the Notre Dame game, he mentioned wanting to, do that in honor of Jim Tressel and the 100th year of the horseshoe. And then after this game, he's like, in honor of the 100th year of the horseshoe, they thought it would be good to do it jokingly. But another super chat for Kevin.
Another super chat from DK. It's crazy to think JSN might leave without ever being the best wide receiver on his own team any year of his career. Harrison looks that good.
I ain't gonna argue.
I have nothing for that other than I think that is a real legitimate possibility that Jackson Smith-Njigba could go down as the record holder for all of these different categories for Ohio State. He could go down as a first-round draft pick coming out of Ohio State. Where in the top 5 do you think Marvin Harrison is going to get drafted next year?
Well, and the thing is, if he was in the draft this year, would he be number 1? I've heard people say he would be. And you see the speed, the eyes and the feet, like the knowledge of where his feet are in relation to the sideline, the hands, he's getting stronger, he's getting faster. The timing, there are no more timing issues. Like he is everything. And he's a guy that he's not just your typical X. Like he's a guy that can go after the catch as well. Compare him to Michael Thomas, but he might be a little bit more in every category, except for maybe like the attitude portion of it. And he'll develop that. Don't worry. He's a receiver after all.
He is a receiver after all. First time in school history since Joey Galloway, only the second time in school history, 3 touchdowns in 2 different games in a career. And he has done it in the span of 3 games. And how many touchdowns could he have had tonight? Because he only had 2. And he had 2 very early. I was like, well, he's going to have 3 tonight for sure. And then he just sort of stopped playing. But he is just, that's another one where you just kind of like throw your hands up. Like, what are you supposed to say? Like he is as complete a receiver as it feels like you've seen at Ohio State. And I had someone else say to me tonight, someone not just like, random writer person
like me.
Yeah, not just an idiot like Tony, like an actual person who knows what they're talking about, is employed in the football sphere. I had someone tonight say best receiver like they've ever seen in college. That's high praise, and okay, you got to kind of finish the drill a little bit on that, but boy, to this question the super chat asked, yes, I think quite legitimately Jackson Smith-Njigba, who we immediately saw freshman year, like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be an all-timer at Ohio State, might never actually be the best receiver on his team in any given year.
I will also say Toledo is double covering Jackson Smith-Njigba quite a bit tonight to help open up everything else. And they had stuff drawn up for Jackson, and Toledo was like, no, we're not allowing this crossing route and up. They had safety and a slot guy on him. Like, they were trying to eliminate him. And that's fine. He was talking to Julian Fleming about this. Just their presence, and Jackson specifically in that slot, opens everything else up because so much of the defensive gravity goes to him. And then you can just allow these other planets to roam free and catch touchdowns and do what Emeka does and do what Marvin Harrison does. And those two continue to be special.
All right. And speaking of receivers, from Brian DeGraff, remember when the year of the tight end thing was kind of like a bit? Anyway, how about Cade Stover? Kid's got hands. He'll knock you on your backside. More great catches tonight. Great to see the tight end get looked at and targeted. Like that, the tight end is like a weapon now in this offense.
Well, they finally got rid of Jeremy Rucker, and then they've got somebody who can actually catch the ball now, so that's good.
This jerk uses two hands. Crazy.
But they did the Cade Stover, the fake toss and throw to him downfield. So he had, like, at one point 3 catches for 83 yards, and I believe that's what he finished with. But when he had that, I started to think back, who was the last Ohio State tight end with over 100 yards receiving? I was reminded myself, like, I think Jeff Hireman did it once with, like, a long catch and some other catches. And he had 100 yards against at Purdue in 2013, like 5 for 116 or whatever. And then so, I did all that research. It didn't take long because I remembered.
You such a tireless worker.
Yes.
Go on.
Yes, and then he never got over the 100 yards, and Tim May was like, hey, you idiot, you did all that research for nothing. That's a pretty good Tim.
That was a pretty good Tim. You made Tim sound like kind of a jerk there. Tim is one of the nicest human beings on the face of the planet. And
you don't sit next to him during games, do you?
Frankly, if you have a problem with Tim May, that tells me more about you than it does about Tim. There I say.
I also sit next to Kevin. What do you say about that?
That's fine. You can call him whatever you want. You keep Tim Mays. Get a foam finger if you want to hold up that many.
So we're on a 2-shot.
Emeka, another 100-yard receiving game, 7 for 116 with the 1 touchdown catch. And what are you thinking about these deep red zone things that they're running right now? Because they bring out this power look, and then they do the little end around jet sweep to Emeka for a touchdown. They tried to throw to the tight ends down there. The one to Cade Stover was just that was so open, and it was just, I guess, a little too open for CJ. But they've got this red zone working really, really well, and it's not just running the ball, though they did that as well, and they pounded it in there, and they're getting crafty down there.
Yeah, if you pull up the scoring tab there, I was looking because one of my bold predictions was they were going to score a 17-yard touchdown. It's like, well, they scored 11 of them, so certainly they must have scored a 17-yard touchdown. And the first 9 touchdowns were all, I believe, scored inside 10 yards. It was all short yardage stuff. It was all red zone stuff. The last 2 were long, the Ballard one and the Caffey one, but the first 9 touchdowns, I think, were all, it was like 1, 3, 7. I think it might have been 2 from 7, 1 from 9. The red zone is just like humming right now. And, that is an area where you go back last year. This was a very talented offense last year. C.J. Stroud was still a good quarterback last year. Trevion Henderson was still a good running back. You had good wide receivers last year. You had a pretty good offensive line, and they kept bogging down in the red zone. And that has just not been a thing this year. Have they failed in the red zone yet this year? Because they didn't kick a field goal against Notre Dame.
They didn't last week.
I don't think they kicked a field goal. They might have kicked one last week, but I think it was outside of the red zone. Yeah, they missed a field goal, but I think that was at the 21. So, you can kind of
no 17-yard touchdowns,
yes.
But 3 7-yard touchdowns.
Yes. So
seven.
But the red zone performance has just been incredible this year, and we'll see. You are eventually going to face better defenses. We'll see what it looks like against Wisconsin next week. We'll see what it looks like when you're facing Iowa. We'll see what it looks like when you're facing Michigan State and Michigan and Penn State. But so far, you can go against air, and if you're 9 for 9 in the red zone, that's even if you're going against walk-ons in practice, 9 for 9 in the red zone is like, all right, that was a pretty good day of football.
And I'm remembering now that one of my bold predictions was I could take any 3 touchdowns and come up with a certain number of the yardage.
It was 57 or something.
I feel like if you score 11 touchdowns, you got a pretty good chance of finding 3 to come up with the right number, right?
Yeah. No, maybe.
I don't remember what the number was, but I can manufacture a new number, whatever. So the defense, another outing by Denzel Burke where it's a freak play. He gives up like the 50-yarder jump ball. I think it was Javonte Jean-Baptiste that let the quarterback break contain. He did that a couple of times, but also got the quarterback a couple of times. But then you just throw it up for grabs. Denzel Burke, I guess, doesn't locate the ball. He's had issues locating the ball so far this season. Tries to bat it down. Doesn't. It gets caught, and then the receiver powers in for the end zone. If it's just a couple of plays every game, that's not good enough. Like, eventually you've got to play a solid game where nothing odd like this happens, because if it continues to happen, it stops being odd,
It does, and I don't think you're at a point of panic. Are you at a point of concern right now with that? I don't know if you're even there yet. I think it's just there have been a couple weird ones, and I don't know at what point that was weird. It goes into turns into that's kind of concerning. I don't know that you're there yet. That was just it was a broken play kind of thing, and a little bit of a scramble drill, and you're gonna have weird stuff happen. And it wasn't, he didn't get beat. He just he was there.
It's like he had coverage, but
he was there. He just, the other guy, the receiver beat him to the ball. So, he didn't get beat deep on that one. Yeah, he's just kind of had a weird season so far. And it hasn't been horrendous. It's just been, there's been like a weird thing every week that has just, you kind of went, that's not what you necessarily would expect out of him.
And they give up 21 points, still only 307 yards of total offense allowed, which is pretty good. That'll be just fine. And that's a number where you can't be upset with the defense. Like that's a good number, especially when you have 77 points on the board and the defense probably stopped playing or could stop playing. These guys didn't, and they kept going. And then not bad. 3.8 yards per carry allowed. It's just the entire offense was basically the broken plays created by the quarterback, and he had 2 23-yard runs, and then that wasn't great, and then scrambling and getting out of there, and as Ryan Day said after the game, they just have to come up with ways to not let that happen. And now they've got it on tape. Now you figure out the fixes, and you try not to let it happen again, because before this game they had shut down a couple of guys who can run, and now this one allows them to go back to the drawing board. It won't matter for next week. And this is a fix for Michigan. This is a fix for Alabama when you're playing quarterbacks that can get out and run, because when they lost contain, these corners for Ohio State, they've had some issues. And Cam Brown had an issue out there, and Denzel Burke on these broken plays where if you let the quarterback get out, it's going to create problems. And when you have one opportunity to get him, you kind of have to do that. And I think Steel Chambers missed one out there as well on a scramble.
And there were a bunch of times when you had someone coming off the edge, and it's Zach Harrison or Javonte Jean-Baptiste or whoever. I think Jack Sawyer might have had one, and just takes a little step up, takes a little hop sideways, and just makes the one guy miss, and then can get out, and you lose contain. And that's probably a little bit of rush discipline, and just sort of recognizing. At some point you sort of expected, okay, you're gonna sort of hit the brakes a little bit. You're not going to go a million miles an hour and fly right past him. And there were times you saw that. There was a point where I know I think Ronnie Hickman and someone else were out there, and they kind of pulled up a little bit to kind of keep him contained, and then he threw the ball over him. But you're at least not stepping in the same bear trap at that point. This was kind of exactly the quarterback play that I was sort of guessing you would see coming into the game. I said on the pregame show, there are going to be a couple plays where Ohio State fans are going to want to throw their remote against the wall because it's like, all right, it's 3rd and 12 and whoop, 23 yards up the gut. Or they, oh, look, they've got him. And, oh, they don't have him. And now it's a 23-yard touchdown run. And that he just was, to me, very much like the prototypical MAC quarterback having like a really impressive, just like doing a lot more athletically than you would think someone in the MAC would be able to do against a Big Ten defense. You've sort of seen that over the years. I remember Josh Cribbs doing that to a couple people, over the years. And you go back to some of those Urban Meyer,
Josh Harris
Harris teams, Omar Jacobs team. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You have seen this play happen before. You saw it happen again tonight. I mean, that's a good quarterback. That's a pretty good offense. And you didn't see them sustaining drives, which is kind of what would have been a concern to me. Sometimes you're going to have those weird plays. And, is Michigan going to beat Ohio State just because J.J. McCarthy has 2 20-yard runs? Like, that's probably not going to be the reason that Michigan beats Ohio State if Michigan beats Ohio State this year. So that's a concern. That's something they're going to have to address. And like you said, now it's on film. Now you can start talking about it. Now you can start strategizing. And now you can figure out how to not have that happen again.
Yeah, just looking at their drive chart, they had 3 drives over 5. They had 4 drives that had 5 or more plays. They had the 1 sustained drive for a touchdown, 11 plays and 75 yards. Daquan Finn, the quarterback, finished, I think, 10 of 19 passing for like 170 yards, like 1 interception, 2 touchdowns, completing about 53%. And that was what we expected. It's just what kind of plays was he going to make outside the pocket with his legs, and not bringing him down in the backfield for big losses. He rushed for 70 yards in this game. I think it's a very good experience for this defense. And then, they still, again, 21 points, 300 yards of total offense, but just 7 points in the second half. I think Knowles will like that with how many backups they're playing there. And although they did have the starters in there for a while because the defense was kind of giving up some yards, but overall, 21 points, 4 or 5 busted plays. Like that's, with this Ohio State offense, you can win with that.
Yeah, I think that goes back to something we've talked about at the beginning of the year, which is this doesn't have to be the number 1 greatest defense of all time. This does not need to be 2011 Alabama. This can, or 2012, whatever year that was. This can just be a good defense. If this is a top 10 defense, this is probably, this is a college football playoff team and potentially more than that. If it's a top 5 defense, this is a national championship game team and potentially more than that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has not been perfect, but they've been pretty good. And I think, they have to feel pretty good about the fact that, to your point, you get into the second half, guys are still playing hard. And, having guys out there for the first time and having Sonny Styles out there, and you saw Caden Curry again, saw Kenyatta Jackson out there again making plays. You saw some of the young guys out there, and of course they're going to be going hard. This is their first chance to make an impression. You want to make an impression. So, but yeah, it was I think a good, fairly consistent defensive effort, which pales in comparison to the offense, which was like, oh boy. They had the drive chart where our producer put the drive chart up there a second ago for Ohio State in the first half, and it was just, the end of drive thing is just touchdown, and it wasn't, they weren't long prolonged drives. It was just just chunk.
4 plays, 3 plays.
4 plays, 3 plays. Just that's how you get to 36 first downs. Is just you have a bunch of, you're not getting 3 yards at a time. You're getting 8, 10 yards at a time. I think they finished rushing for 6 point something, but the yards per pass had to be 10, 12, more than that.
Yeah, thereabouts. There almost like 18 yards of completion, 17 yards of completion. So it's very, very effective as they have been. And I don't think it's a coincidence Jackson Smith-Njigba comes back, and now you see the full array of the passing game. Good to see Julian Fleming get a couple of touchdowns. he was asked if is this the restart of your career, and he's like, he thought about it. He's like, no, this is just part of the journey. I thought that was a really mature answer, and he's like, he's been working hard for this, and I think if you think about it as a restart, then you ignore all of the stuff that you've had to do to get here, and to get back, and to get healthy, and you kind of maybe lose appreciation for everything you've done if you put it out of the back of your mind.
Right. Yeah. You've got to, Tony, write this down. This is important. If you'd like to paint this on a pallet and hang it in your home, you may do that.
Live, laugh, love.
Yes, that first of all, more so than anything else. Yes, live, laugh, love, but also
in this house we root for the Raiders.
Life is a journey, Tony, not a destination. So, I think that is sort of reflective of what
Tom Cochran. Life is a highway.
Big if true. I think that is reflective of what Julian Fleming's talking about there, which is, he I think had some maturing to do when he got to college. I think he had, he's had health stuff he's had to overcome. He's had a lot of disappointment. I said when I was talking to Mark and Devin earlier, I said I think he holds the school record for most times on the availability report as a game time decision without actually playing. And he was a game time decision tonight. And then he played, and then he scored a couple touchdowns. And the first touchdown was so reflective of all the stuff you've heard about him, where it's just like, you won't believe the stuff that this guy can do. And he reaches out, makes the grab. I have a photo of it if we want to get our shot of the game graphic up right now. He reaches out, makes the grab, drags his toe right on there it is, catch of the day.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Yeah. Red snapper.
Where'd you get that photo from?
A guy took it on the field. Yes, that is our Buckeye Huddle catch of the day. Shot of the game. Yes, if Red Lobster would like to sponsor the catch of the day. Yes, if someone would like to sponsor the shot of the day, we can brand it. Hey, friends, you tell us. But you look at the toe.
Yeah.
You see the little spray of pellets. He's dragging that toe. He's leaning. There's a guy right there. That is not an easy catch. It reminds me of last year, the Nebraska game, where he had that play on the sideline and he makes this incredible catch and they rule him out of bounds. And it was one of those things where it's like, maybe if you really want to be extremely technical, it probably wasn't a catch, but it was one of those, this is so cool, it should count anyway kind of plays. That was Julian Fleming's career up to this point, was like, well, he almost made this really cool play one time. And, he played in the Rose Bowl. It was like, oh, he played in the Rose Bowl. I had a bunch of catches in the Rose Bowl. Good for him. And then gets overshadowed again. So it was awesome to see him finally, get to really kind of shine.
I want to get back to him, but let's do the super chat.
I don't know if we're going to have an answer for this one, but Mike Perino, I just bought tickets for the Wisconsin game. Will be my first one. Anyone have any idea how much Uber Lyft will cost to a hotel like 8 miles away after the game?
8 miles.
So an Uber or Lyft to a hotel after the game, 8 miles away. Boy, and I guess the question there is, how long are you going to hang out after the game? If you are going to walk out of the stadium and try and get an Uber, best of luck, friend. You will not be the only person with that idea. I think if you can go find a spot to hang out for a little while, it's still going to be expensive.
It's going to be $40 or $50, I'm guessing.
Oh, I would bet more than that.
Not like peak, like if you let things go.
The key is finding the sweet spot between the end of the game
and the end of
the bars closing at 2. So
you're not going to.
Yeah, maybe not. it's because it's an 8 o'clock game. So
no, you just
you're host. So good luck.
There's Coda. There's always the bus.
Thank you for in certain directions. That is technically true. Yes. So thank you for the super chat. Best of luck next weekend. It is going to it's going to be a little dicey to, you will not be stranded. You will get out eventually, but it might not be cheap.
Yeah. And then back to Julian Fleming, talking to him about that touchdown play, the scramble drill, and how he saw CJ scrambling. So he's like, oh, okay, I know what I got to do. And then I asked him, like, are you watching the sideline as you're getting, like, you're watching CJ, you're watching the sideline? He's like, no, you just kind of have a feel for it. And he said, he's seen CJ do this like all season and constantly in practice. This is like part of his game now, CJ Stroud's game now, where this is what he does. We also saw him running the ball.
We did.
Which was incredible. I think there was a false start when they went empty on like a 3rd and 3 that was totally going to be a quarterback draw and would have lit everybody up. But there was a false start. Last thing on Julian Fleming. Comes into this game averaging about 7 yards a catch for his career. This one, 3 catches, 23 yards, another 7.5 yards. I would like to allow him to have a moment like Jaden Ballard did to show everybody I can run, I'm fast.
Yeah, and what's interesting is you mentioned C.J. Stroud running and scrambling, extending the play, and knowing where the sideline is and all these kind of catches. For the second time in 3 weeks, I was at the visiting coach's postgame press conference and heard the visiting coach talk about how just basically unfair it is that Ohio State, you think you've got him. It's we have Stroud on the run. It's 3rd down. We're certainly we are going to get off the field here. We were going to, and he's running. And he's thrown the ball, but certainly this receiver is going to be out of bounds. Certainly, no question, this is going to be out of bounds and will be off the field. And then somehow the receiver drags his toe and gets in, and it's another first down for Ohio State. Well, that seems grossly unfair. It has been, he and Marcus Freeman said essentially the same thing. And we're talking about the fact that it wasn't just one play. It was all these guys just keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Opposing coaches seem to find that annoying. We do
Kevin.
have a super chat.
Another super chat from Shane. Every time we line up in the pistol formation, it's a run to the right. It was productive tonight. But is it too predictable a play call moving forward?
Well, and they have worked against that type, and they have thrown out of that previously. They've done that with the ace as well. They do the single back under center where they have done some play action. So this may have just been, and I don't know if it was every time. It may have seemed like it. Maybe it was. But they are very aware of that tell that they had last season. They may have been playing into it. They may have just been saying, we don't care. We're going to do this. But it's something that they are aware of, and it's something that if they're doing it constantly now, they're doing it for a reason. And so this isn't – they figured out their tendencies from last year in this regard. And, yeah, they did run it a ton last year out of pistol, from under center. And we saw in the first game they went away from that.
Right. Yeah, that's something that I've talked with Ross Fulton about, because that was something that Ross had identified last year as a really obvious tell that they had. And they very obviously diagnosed it on film. That's what QC guys are there to do, is sort of self-scout. They figured it out. They went away from it. And I think you've got it exactly right. Did they seem concerned at any point tonight with offense? Oh boy, I don't know if this is going to work. It was just kind of why use anything other than the base stuff?
You don't need to get cute. And the offensive line was having a blast, run blocking, and so were the running backs. And they were running to the right very powerfully. DeJuan Jones was getting downfield and putting his guys further back. And there's a lot of traffic and a lot of bodies, but the line just kept getting pushed further and further back, and the running backs were getting yards. Kevin.
Another super chat from Butch Jones. When the time is appropriate, and I'm saying it's appropriate, could Sir Thomas please discuss the Penn State win at Auburn with his world-famous SEC voice, pretty please?
Well, I do declare I did not get to watch much of that game as I was busy working on my plantation down on the field here at Ohio Stadium. But I did see someone retweet the Auburn Barstool account saying, "Has been a student at Auburn for 4 years." And boy, Mike, this is really drifting. I'm sorry.
No, I think they want the more yokel than the cultured, the gentleman, the Southern gentleman. They want that yokel.
Yes, it was essentially, I've been a student here for 13 years, and I never seen nothing like this. And they play Alabama and Georgia, and them Yankees came down and kicked the crap clean out of our team. So Brian Harsin fired tomorrow or Monday?
Well, I take more issue with you considering a bunch of Penn State people as Yankees, because yes, technically it's Northern, but they're pretty country. You know that from Terrell Pryor.
That's where their AAA team is, so it is in Pennsylvania.
But Nicholas Singleton again, 10 carries, 124 yards. I think that dude's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And 5-star guy that Ohio State really, really wanted. He might single-handedly save Sean Clifford's career. I don't know. Can't get him the ball enough. but I don't know if you can get him the ball enough to beat a Michigan or an Ohio State this year.
Yeah, I think I still have questions about Penn State on the offensive line, and I would like to go rewatch that game or really watch that game because 1,200. I mean, 6.3 yards per carry, 245 yards rushing, 5 rushing touchdowns. Like, I would like to see Penn State. What was the Penn State offensive line really that much better? Because that has been the bugaboo for them for a decade now. That they've had skill talent, they've had quarterbacks, but the offensive line has just kind of been crap for like a decade. So, and if your offensive line is not good, your offense is not good. So I kind of want to see. I would like to see Penn State against a better defensive line potentially, and also
better than an SEC defensive line.
I also would like to see what did this look like, because I really didn't get to watch much of that game. I saw just little bits and pieces. I saw Sean Clifford get knocked into another dimension at one point, and then just pop right back up, and it was like the Zach Dumas hit might no longer be the biggest hit in Auburn history, but man, that's an impressive win for Penn State, and can't wait to never hear that discussed ever again in terms of college football playoff and all of that.
Best win in the Big Ten. Oh, well, I see Michigan State came back to still lose closely, 39-28. So that one was like 29-8 or something at the half. Woof. It was bad. So good job. Texas A&M, 17-9 over Miami. I'm just seeing all of these now.
Yes.
Sorry, this is great. This is great. I
While
understand.
you're going through scores, I got a technical question from Coded. Tom, what camera setup do you use when taking your pictures?
So, Tony,
This is going to be an hour.
No.
We're only going about 10 to 15 more minutes.
Yeah, so I have a Canon. I shoot tonight. I was just shooting with a Canon 5D. Have a 100 to 400 lens. It has yes, Kevin would like you to know it's Kevin's lens. So basically, Kevin did all the work tonight. Is I think what he's looking for. But what I shoot everything on manual. I have tried to. You have 3 settings on a camera. You're looking at your aperture, you're looking at your shutter speed, and you're looking at your ISO. I have tried tonight. I tried to shoot with the aperture as as high as I could to get a little more depth, which helps get everything in sharper focus. But as it gets darker, you have to keep the shutter speed relatively high, keep it around 1,000 or so, because otherwise you get motion blur, because these guys are moving pretty quickly, and you don't want to bump the ISO up too far above 6,400 or something. It starts getting grainy. So I end up just kind of like, it was just sort of like gradually stepping the aperture down throughout the evening to keep things looking sharp, and you lose a little bit of that depth, but I think it ended up coming up okay. So
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic photo. You can't tell who it is though. I mean, there's no name on the jersey.
Yeah, well, that's really more of a Julian Fleming problem than mine, because I was there. I was right there. But.
Again, very, very good for those guys to get back into the game, because they're going to need them next week. Be interested to see how balanced the offense is next week. And I think Ryan Day saw the balance is really, I think, allowed them to put 700 yards of total offense on the board. Kevin, we got any questions that we want to get to? Anything chit chats? Well, we got.
I've got it. Brian DeGroff. There's your 3-pointer. 2 quarterback with a passer rating of over 200.
Well, that's not a 3-point bold prediction. That would be a 1-point bold prediction, I think, because college, it's not outrageous to be over 200, and for a second guy to do it, he just has to complete a pass. One of one, basically.
Well, one of what I don't.
With 20 yards or something. Like that.
Quarterback rating is one of those stats that, like, I can honestly tell you I don't have any idea how it's
Especially,
calculated.
Well, in quarterback in college is different than the NFL.
The pro, yeah. So you need one big play. You have one big hit, and then you're 3 for 3. I feel like you would need to set a minimum number of attempts to have that be more than a couple points. But yes.
Shad would really like us to talk about the Heisman race, because he has a fantastic graphic.
All right, so we have a producer who has a graphic about the Heisman race, so we're going to talk about the Heisman race. CJ Stroud, 941 passing yards, 11 touchdowns. Seems good. Bryce Young, I mean, is Bryce Young having a down year? Did Alabama play today? But I mean,
no, they won. Yes, of course. UL Monroe, not down compared to himself. I mean, that's what CJ Stroud is compared to himself. Bryce Young is compared to himself. But the offensive line has issues. The running game has issues. The receivers have issues. So, but Bryce Young does have obviously he won it last year. He's going to be boosted back up once Alabama starts playing a tough schedule and gets guys in there. What are you laughing
Yes,
at?
two interceptions for Bryce Young today. Stetson Bennett.
That's not good.
It's not great. It's not strictly speaking what you want. Boy,
I think Caleb Williams is going to be the guy that shoots up.
yeah, and Caleb Williams is going to have, I think, the Dwayne Haskins season where you have massive passing stats because number one, you're in a good offense, but number two, your defense is just hot garbage, just a flaming garbage scow of a defense for USC right now. And that's you saw 2018. Well, the defense can't get off the field. The defense is giving up 40 points to 35, 40 points. Well, I guess you got to keep the quarterback in a little longer and keep throwing the ball. And
and what Caleb Williams will also have is some highlight runs that will help him as well. Bryce Young has had that as well. Blake Corum, I think he was maybe like 70, 80 yards rushing with 2 or 3 or 4 touchdowns today. Just a half of action. Show me what he does in the Big Ten because we've seen it many times where he can have 120 yards one game and 20 yards the next. And, I fully expect that to be the case this year as well. They held Donovan Edwards out today. He got banged up at the end in the last game. That's why he only carried the ball like 3 times. But I like Blake Corum, but I've seen too much of him to think that he is a Heisman guy.
well, and let's see what that looks like when you're playing a team with a pulse. I mean, like any kind of a pulse because they've played. Ohio State has not. The Notre Dame game looks a little different than it did at the time of the game, and the Arkansas State is not great, and Toledo is a MAC team, but they're a decent MAC team. Ohio State has played 3 teams better than anyone that Michigan has played, and Ohio State has not played an incredible murderer's row of a schedule. Michigan, I saw a ranking of the bottom 10 or the bottom 15, and you can look at any version of that you want from any outlet you want, and all 3 of Michigan's opponents are going to be in whatever that list is. So Blake Corum, yeah, sure. I mean,
if there's a Michigan player on that list, it should be J.J. McCarthy in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that he feels like he's the guy who, and that means you've got to run the table against the garbage schedule, and then you got to beat Penn State at home. You got to beat Ohio State here.
And I'm not saying he deserves it or anything. I'm just saying that's where the attention is going to go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I made some people angry on Twitter today when after CJ Stroud started like 10 for 12, I tweeted out it was a McCarthyian start, McCarthyian performance.
I'm sure that went over great. Just like when I tweeted out that Ohio State had 217 rushing yards, and I thought they should just kneel on the ball in the name of sportsmanship. Turns out not everyone on Twitter.com listens to the Bold Prediction Show and gets the joke.
Yeah.
I tweeted hashtag if you know, you know. So obviously that means there is something to know. I saw a question earlier. Now there's a question about the most points ever scored on Windshield Field. Someone was asking, had we seen more than 77 points? Was that the most points we had ever seen Ohio State score? I feel like they scored 77 against Bowling Green. Maybe that was 76. They scored 70.
77 against Pitt.
70. No, they scored 72 against Pitt in 1996.
70 against Rice.
70 and 72. Huh?
Yes.
Was it 76 against Bowling Green? It was 77.
I think it was 77 against Bowling Green. They had 76 against Florida A&M. But I think the only time they got over 80 was at least the last time, and maybe the only time was against Iowa in like 1950, and they got, I think, 83 points. But, I mean, all of that, there was a point where with 2 minutes left in the game, they needed, you needed Caden Saunders to break 1 tackle or 2 tackles, and you're over 800 yards of offense. You're over 80, you're at 84 points. Yeah. I mean, it is, by any measure, that was an incredibly impressive performance.
That was one of those games where they kind of kept pace with their outrageous pace in the first quarter. Like it didn't really drop off after 2 quarters, after 3 quarters, and nearly scoring 20 points a quarter. I mean, that's That I don't know what the record is, scoring 70 points. I'm guessing.
Well, they've never lost. They've only lost once, giving up 35. So scoring double that, I'm going to guess it's probably pretty good.
Well, we'll look. We'll get back to you on that. We'll get you an answer later in the week on that one. Kevin, any other questions? I know we'll go like three more minutes. Is that what we're
I
looking
was
for?
going to say that we have 425 on the line, so I don't like the idea of dropping. But
all right.
I've also been scowled at multiple times by cleaning crew
Yeah.
here. So I mean, everybody is looking to get out of here.
They should-
RC asking, do you guys consider cereal to be soup?
No. And I realize there are cold soups, but cereal is no. It's not a soup.
Right. No, it's not. It's not, because this is.
It's not cooked at all. Like
Yes, this
nothing
is-
about it is cooked.
This is one of these Potter Stewart things where I know it when I see it, and
Yeah.
Codith would like to see more Sonny Styles out there going forward. He had a big tackle while I was standing down there on the field where he wrapped the guy up and made sure that he went down to the turf.
Yeah, mentioning wanting to see more Sonny Styles going forward. You know who doesn't want to see Sonny Styles going forward? People with the ball, because he hit that the first time he's out. It wasn't the first time he's out there. He's been on special teams, but like his first tackle, he leveled that dude, and then he had another one where he's a physical guy, as we would expect, being 6'4", 220 odd pounds, looking pretty comfortable out there. And if Josh Proctor, that was a precaution. All of the injury stuff was all precautionary. I thought maybe we would get to see him a little earlier, but I'm glad we got to see what we saw.
And he feels like he's very much on track for where you would sort of want him to be right now. Again, he should be in high school. He should have been playing last night in whoever Pickerington North played last night. He should have been playing in that game, not in this game.
Yeah.
So for him to already be on he was on the kickoff team. Saw him a couple times tonight on that, and I think he might have done that in previous weeks too. He, for that alone is like, oh, okay, good. Then, that's just, he is a real outlier physically. Just, the combination of size and speed and strength is just like, this is why he's a 5-star, because they don't make him like that.
Yeah.
And, so you saw that from him already on the kicker. And then it's like, okay, and now he's on defense, and it's 9 million to 21, and the game is over, and there's 35,000 people in the stands, but you can see it. It's there. It's, he is not ready to start yet. I know it was very impressive tonight. He is not ready to start yet. Everyone needs to just be a little bit patient with this. But if he is at the point where they can maybe work him in at some point in slightly closer situations where, instead of being up by 50 points, okay, they're up by 20 points. And then you can work him in a little earlier in the game and get him more reps and, more stuff to put on film, all of that stuff. That gets you where you want to be next year.
What I will tell you is they can't even find snaps for Court Williams, who is a captain.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be able to find snaps for Sonny Styles when the game is still on the line, I think. Have we got anything else?
Who are you more concerned about, Georgia or Alabama?
That Georgia offense, I mean, they're doing everything right now. Stetson Bennett is looking good, and you keep waiting for the Stetson Bennett where he's like the thing that holds them back, and we haven't seen that at all from him. I think they're running it okay. Obviously, the defense is doing what it's doing and taking advantage of poor quarterback play at times. Spencer Rattler there are times where he throws the ball and you see like, oh, I see why, he was such a highly touted guy. And then he throws an interception. You're like, I don't see why. And that's it. That's the problem with him in a nutshell, is you just never know what you're going to get. And then Georgia, if you give them anything, they're going to take advantage of it. And they've done that all year.
Yeah, not Spencer Rattler. Stetson Bennett has been. He is what he is. He is not ever going to be C.J. Stroud. He's not ever going to be Bryce Young, but he is someone who, if he doesn't have to throw the ball downfield, they can be very efficient on that offense. Their defense is going to carry a lot of the mail for him on that. See, because his nickname was the mailman. So, but the defense is going to kind of carry the mail for that team, and the win over Oregon is starting to look a little more impressive because you saw them beat Oregon 49-3 week one. And it was like, oh man, Oregon must be terrible. Well, Oregon just thumped BYU on Saturday night. So it's like, okay. And, I think we looked at the Georgia-South Carolina game as like, well, South Carolina's been okay. And maybe they can, maybe they can put up 21, 24 points and, make it, keep it competitive, keep it 38-24. Like, nope. That game was 45-0 or something like that.
Bad.
It was Georgia. Georgia looked legit. Georgia lost all that talent, and doesn't seem to have suffered any kind of a drop off.
No,
So, and I think there's a question about when is Georgia going to face an offense as good as Ohio State's, and I don't know that there is an answer. But when is Ohio State going to face a defense as good as Georgia, and I don't know that there's an answer to that either.
Yeah, and I will also go back to if your best offensive player is your tight end, I don't think you are an unstoppable offense, and that's what Brock Bowers is for them. He even ran it in on an end around today for a touchdown.
Tight end around. Tight end around. Got it. I got there eventually.
You did work on it, and you got it there. Kevin, we're all good. Should we wrap it? Okay. All right. Kevin wants to go home. So I would like to stay.
I have bad news, friend. We have a morning show to do after this.
Why don't you got it? Hello, welcome to the morning show.
No. We don't stream that unless we're doing it after practice. And this would be, it wouldn't be canon.
It would not be canon. No.
So then we will wrap up. Thank you all for joining us for the past, what did we even start? Like 2 hours ago, I'm guessing.
2:10 right
2 hours and 10 minutes ago. Hope you guys are enjoying what we're doing, what we're trying to put out there for you. Post-game stream from the outset. Mark and Devin doing a fantastic job keeping it going, starting it, and then we're trying to get interviews. And I thought it went well today in terms of how it was set up. Hopefully the feedback feels the same.
There's always a fun adventure. Tonight's fun adventure was we were recording this in the Toledo coaches booth, and I walked in here and there were still headsets on the table, and I was like, that's not normal. And then there were Toledo staffers in here pulling phone lines and stuff out of here and headsets out of here. So I was sitting in here ready to go and just like, nope, can't do it because there's people banging around in here making a lot of noise. So we'll and there was no other spots to do this right now. So because we don't want to do it in the main press box.
One more
really
super chat there.
Treebuck, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, Treebuck says I really enjoy it. We
Thank you, Treebuck.
We enjoy it too. This has been fun. And can I make a little confession? Even though it's going to be an hour later next week, I'm already kind of looking forward to the Wisconsin game. Like, let's see a competitive. Like this was a fun night, and it was you got to see the young guys and some of the new players, and you get to see Julian Fleming. It's like, oh, that was cool. It was, that was a really nice game. I'm looking forward to the Wisconsin game. Like I know they lost to Washington State, but it feels like that's one of those things that you're going to look at the end of the season and go, yeah, that doesn't, that's a weird outlier. That feels like this. We're going to know a lot more about this Ohio State team this time next week.
Yeah, and it's going to be one. The crowd was really into this game.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be into next week as well. That'll be a fun one. It's first Big Ten game, so it means more. But that will then do it for us. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for just being with us throughout this whole thing. And we will see you all next time.